Chapter 263. Seeing Zhou Xuanji's chest pierced by the bone claw, the great Zhou captives all became terrified. Was he going to be defeated just like that? At that moment, Zhou Xuanji directly used Six-Path Sword's shadow and killed all of the evil spirits around him. His chest trembled and forced the bone claw out of his body, and his wound healed at a visible rate. His face was pale, and he felt a lingering fear in his heart. If he had not activated Golden Invincible Form, his life force might have been greatly reduced, and he might have been defeated. After all, his body cultivation was to strengthen his body's defense, not his regeneration. "Are you afraid?" Huangquan Drake King said mockingly. Thinking about how Zhou Xuanji was Xian Xianghua's husband, a murderous aura appeared in his eyes. In his life, he hated Xian Xianghua the most. That old demonic woman was cruel and heartless. Only by making her suffer would he feel excited. Moreover, there was another reason why he came to find Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji deeply breathed in and summoned all of his legendary swords to his side in case the evil spirits suddenly attacked. He had not sensed his injuries at all. Even though he was so far away from Huangquan Drake King, he could not see the evil spirits' movements. Could it be that they had come from the netherworld? Zhou Xuanji immediately activated the Tianxia map, and his aura changed slightly. Seeing that he did not speak, Huangquan Drake King condescendingly laughed and continued to attack. Hundreds of evil spirits appeared around Zhou Xuanji, inundating him. These evil spirits were all very powerful. If it was an ordinary spirit refinement cultivator, they would most likely be torn apart. Even great realization cultivators would find it difficult to defend against them. The evil spirits suddenly gave off terrifying cries. Following this, they were all absorbed by Zhou Xuanji. Huangquan Drake King stared with wide eyes and cried out in shock, "How is this possible?" He did not believe it and continued to cast spells. Thousands of evil spirits once again surrounded Zhou Xuanji and leapt at him. "Demons and monsters, you want to harm me?" Zhou Xuanji condescendingly laughed. Using the Tianxia map, he directly absorbed all of the evil spirits. These evil spirits all had spirit energy, which was converted by the Tianxia map into pure spirit energy suitable for him, helping him become stronger. After absorbing thousands of evil spirits, he broke through straightaway. Spirit Refinement Level 5. Some strange memories flashed through his mind. They came from the wraiths. Fortunately, Zhou Xuanji often inherited sword techniques, so he had some resistance to these unfamiliar memories and would not get lost in them. Sensing Zhou Xuanji's aura change, Huangquan Drake King's eyes widened. This kid is using his evil spirit to break through. He was instantly enraged. "Kid! You're courting death." Huangquan Drake King came before Zhou Xuanji in a single step and swung his staff. It was simply too fast, and Zhou Xuanji could not dodge in time, nor could he absorb its spirit energy. He was sent flying backwards by the skeletal staff. Pfft! A mouthful of blood spurted out from Zhou Xuanji's mouth and splattered across the sky. Flying 10,000 meters horizontally, he crashed into the mountains and landed beside a small river, causing the ground to collapse. Countless stones flew in all directions like bullets. All he felt was a bone-crushing pain. The invincible Vajra body quickly faded. The great Zhou captives were silent. It was as if they had been struck by lightning as they stood rooted to the ground. The Yellow Springs Path side cheered. "All hail the Dragon King." "I knew it. How can Zhou Xuanji stand up to the Dragon King? Such domineering power. Zhou Xuanji could not withstand it at all. This is the Dragon King, unparalleled and invincible. I feel that the Dragon King can compete for first place in the next World Millennium Duel." The evil cultivators and demons of the Yellow Springs Path started praising the Yellow Springs Drake King, as if he was already invincible. At this moment, Huangquan Drake King raised his left hand and tens of thousands of great Zhou captives flew up in panic. The other captives on the ground also tensed up. "Stop! What are you trying to do?" Shitan Chengshi shouted angrily. Unfortunately, his body was weak and his spiritual power was depleted. Otherwise, he would have already rushed up and fought Huangquan Drake King to the death. Huangquan Drake King ignored him and looked at Zhou Xuanji in the distance as he said coldly, "Zhou Xuanji, didn't you want to save them? Today, I'll let you watch them die one by one." With that, he threw the tens of thousands of captives into the yellow springs. The captives screamed again and again. After entering the yellow springs, their bodies decayed at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was a horrible sight to behold. At this moment, only their screams echoed in the world. Horrifying. Despair. Damn it. Zhou Qingxin bent over and pounded his fists on the ground. He felt as if his chest was about to explode from anger. He hated it so much. He hated Huangquan Drake King. He hated himself even more. It was his uselessness that caused his people to die so tragically. The other great Zhou captives fell into extreme despair and terror. They did not beg for mercy because they had already begged. Death was not scary. Knowing that death was coming but being powerless to resist was the most terrifying. Moreover, their deaths would be torturous. Zhou Xuanji, what are you enduring? Or are you unable to control that power at all? Huangquan Drake King mocked. He did not even bat an eyelid when he killed tens of thousands of people casually. Far away, Zhou Xuanji lay at the bottom of the crater. His white clothes were torn, and his body was covered with blood. Dozens of legendary swords were scattered around him. He tried to stand up but could not. This guy. So he knew that I had the Tianxia map. He kept forcing me to use the Tianxia map so that he could take the opportunity to take it. Zhou Xuanji's eyes were cold. His murderous intent toward Huangquan Drake King had reached its peak. The Holy Light Redemption sword flew to his side and pierced into his right arm to help him recover. The Tianxia map was also providing him with endless spirit energy. He got up slowly and began to think of a plan. Huangquan Drake King was more powerful than he had imagined. But he was confident that he could escape. But if he escaped, he might as well not have come. He looked toward the Huangquan 100 Devils. He could rely on these fellows to become more powerful, but Huangquan Drake King would not just stand by and watch. The one who obtains the Tianxia map will obtain the world. Zhou Xuanji, the Tianxia map has not been able to unleash its true might in your hands. Why don't you hand over the Tianxia map to me? Huangquan Drake King laughed wildly, causing everyone to be in an uproar. Tianxia map. Even Great Zhou's side was stunned. Zhou Xuanji had the legendary treasure Tianxia map. The Huangquan 100 Devils' breathing became ragged. Although they were working for Huangquan Drake King, they each had their own thoughts. If they obtained the Tianxia map, given time, they believed that they could surpass Huangquan Drake King. To be able to reach such heights, who did not have any thoughts? Zhou Xuanji frowned deeply. This fellow actually told them about this. Even if he obtained it, was he not afraid that everyone in the world would attack him? It's a pity that the Tianxia map will still fall into Huangquan Drake King's hands. Feng Qiul shook his head, looking worried. He could not defeat Huangquan Drake King, so he could only watch on. Once Huangquan Drake King obtained the Tianxia map, the world would face a great calamity. On the other side, Lin Chunga was also anxious. He gritted his teeth and flipped his right hand. A scroll appeared in his hand. He shouted at Huangquan Drake King, "Bastard! Do you dare to fight me?" However, Huangquan Drake King ignored him and flew towards Zhou Xuanji. Calm. Wonderful bookstore calm. Chapter 264. Throughout history, anyone who obtained the Tianxia map could rule the world. Our netherworld path was the first to discover the Tianxia map, but it was taken away by you. Do you know what crime you've committed? This king will dismember your body into 1,000 pieces and grind your bones to dust. Even that will not be enough to atone for your sins. Huangquan Drake King coldly laughed as he flew towards Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji had not obtained the Tianxia map for long. He did not believe that Zhou Xuanji could kill him with the help of the Tianxia map. Looks like I can only break my promise. Zhou Xuanji sighed in his heart. He had already tried his best. He could not just throw his life away here. Aggrieved. However, he had already anticipated the possibility of failure. However, he didn't want to have any regrets and wanted to fight. The sky extinguishing sword and ancient god's sword landed in his hands again. Emperor Hanlon's remnant soul attached to his body, and his aura rose again. Huangquan Drake King was already on his must-kill list. He hated them even more than Jihuang Demon Lord. What? Scared? Huangquan Drake King said mockingly. Even without his orders, the Huangquan Hundred Devils and Huangquan Twin Devils appeared in the surroundings, sealing off Zhou Xuanji's escape routes. All of them looked at him with sinister smiles, as if they were looking at a prisoner. If you hand over the Tianxia map, I can give you a chance to be my slave. Huangquan Drake King laughed. There was no doubt about Zhou Xuanji's talent, and if he could use him, it would naturally be good. Once he controlled the Tianxia map, no matter how talented Zhou Xuanji was, he would not be able to surpass him. Zhou Xuanji took a deep breath and prepared to fight his way out. Tianxia map. A voice suddenly rang in his ears. He subconsciously turned around and saw Emperor Hanlon's deep eyes staring down at him. He was stunned. Is this guy conscious? I didn't expect that I would encounter the Tianxia map again. Brat, you borrowed my power, which is equivalent to being my successor. How can you be humiliated by this insect? Emperor Hanlon's voice resounded once more, and his tone carried an air of superiority. Yellow Springs Drake King stopped and looked at Emperor Hanlon with a frown. Who are you? He had thought that Emperor Hanlon was Zhou Xuanji's sword soul and had never thought that he would have his own consciousness. Emperor Hanlon ignored him and continued to look down at Zhou Xuanji. Brat, I'll let you try the power of the Tianxia map so that it won't be shamed. Just when he finished speaking, Zhou Xuanji felt the Tianxia map in his body begin to rampage. His eyes widened. Was Emperor Hanlon the owner of the Tianxia map in the past? The sword spirit had said that the supreme legendary sword system had absorbed many remnant souls when it descended into the northern wilderness region, and Emperor Hanlon was one of them. She did not expect him to be the owner of the Tianxia map. That was right. The primordial god's sword contained the remnant souls of 9 ancient great powers, but the first one it summoned was Emperor Hanlon. Was it because of the Tianxia map? A terrifying power emerged from his right palm and poured into the ancient god's sword. The ancient god's sword trembled violently, and the blade burst forth with a powerful light. It turned into a sword of light, and its aura was so powerful that the stones nearby trembled continuously. This is, Huangquan Drake King widened his eyes in shock. The surrounding Huangquan Hundred Devils and Huangquan Twin Devils were also frightened. From Emperor Hanlon's tone, it was clear that he had an extraordinary background. Could this fellow be related to the Tianxia map? Zhou Xuanji's expression changed slightly. Sensing this powerful energy, even he himself was shocked. The power of the Tianxia map. Do it. We can't let him continue to become stronger. The blade-wielding demon furiously roared. After speaking, they rushed at Zhou Xuanji. The Huangquan Hundred Devils also moved. Nearly 100 spirit refinement cultivators and above prepared to cast magic techniques, wanting to kill Zhou Xuanji on the spot. Zhou Xuanji swept out with his sword, using the sky-dominating divine sword. Boom! A terrifying sword chi exploded out, and before the Huangquan Hundred Devils could even use their spirit energy, they were sent flying back and coughed up blood. Immediately, 10 or so Huangquan Devils were annihilated. The Huangquan Twin Devils' cultivations were higher, and they nimbly dodged. Zhou Xuanji used the 8-step sword lunge and quickly came behind one of the Huangquan Devils. He stabbed his sword in, and at the same time, he used world internalization to absorb the other party's spirit energy. Using the Tianxia map's power, he absorbed the Huangquan Devil's spirit energy in an instant, as well as his soul. This fellow did not even have time to say anything before dying. Following this, Zhou Xuanji continued to attack the other Huangquan Devils. The Tianxia map suppressed their souls and absorbed their spirit energy, making it so that the other Huangquan Devils did not notice this. So powerful. This feeling. Zhou Xuanji could not contain his excitement. With the support of the Tianxia map, his speed greatly increased, far surpassing the speed of a great realization cultivator. He could do whatever he wanted. Now, he felt that he could really do whatever he wanted. The pressure that Huangquan Drake King gave him decreased greatly. Seeing him slaughter the Huangquan 100 devils, Huangquan Drake King could not sit still anymore and immediately charged at him. In less than 5 breaths of time, Zhou Xuanji had killed 4 Huangquan devils. Unknowingly, he felt that his understanding of world reincarnation had deepened. Boom! Huangquan Drake King smashed down with his staff, but Zhou Xuanji dodged it. Chapter 267. The number 1 swordsman overseas? Mahayana Realm Cultivation Base? Lin Chunga was shocked. There were all sorts of legends about the northern wilderness region overseas. When he was young, he had also been curious about overseas. He did not expect that Zhou Xuanji had already subdued a powerful sword cultivator from overseas. "You're not lying to me?" Lin Chunga asked with a frown. If it was really as Zhou Xuanji said and he took him as his master, it would not be shameful. Wait a minute. How could I have such a strange idea? I am the exquisite Sword Heart, the descendant of the hegemon Sword Emperor. Lin Chunga took a deep breath and cast aside all the random thoughts in his mind. Do I look like a liar to you? Zhou Xuanji said with disdain. He looked as if he didn't care whether he came or not. Seeing this, Lin Chunga became anxious again. He really wanted to learn the ancestral dragon sword. A 5-clawed golden dragon was so awe-inspiring that he wanted to learn it even in his dreams. Zhou Xuanji did not speak anymore. If Zhou Xuanji kept him in suspense, this brat would take the bait sooner or later. Following that, they roamed around the great Zhou dynasty. All the demons they encountered were drained of their demonic energy and driven away. Zhou Xuanji did not kill them all. As he had a big and small heir, Chongming Demon Monarch, and the little black snake, his hatred towards demons was far less than that of ordinary people. Meanwhile, the news of Zhou Xuanji killing Huangquan Drake King was like a meteor falling to the ground, shaking the heavens and earth. The northern wilderness region went berserk. 42nd in the world killed the 5th in the world. Everyone's first reaction upon hearing this was disbelief. However, when they heard that Zhou Xuanji had the Tianxia map, they were all shocked. The owner of the Tianxia map would rule the world. This legend was known to everyone in the northern wilderness. Could it be that Zhou Xuanji had relied on the Tianxia map to kill Huangquan Drake King? For a time, both the human and demon races were in an uproar. Zhou Xuanji has already grown to become the 5th in the world. He's only 28 years old. Oh my God, are you kidding me? A 28-year-old ranked 5th in the world. He is even more powerful than Yang Di. The Tianxia map is with Zhou Xuanji? No wonder he's so powerful. The reason why Zhou Xuanji is so devilishly powerful is because of the Tianxia map. If we obtain the Tianxia map, will we be able to roam the world like him? All the dynasties, sacred grounds, dynasties, and sects were discussing this matter. On the 7th day after the news was made public, the Shanghai Ziggurat released the new top 100 of the northern wilderness. The name of Huangquan Drake King was erased. Zhou Xuanji made a huge leap. The number 1 in the world, Sunlight Emperor, the Eternal Emperor, dominating both the past and the present. 2nd in the world, Jihuang Demon Lord, supreme of the demon race, unparalleled. 3rd in the world, Jiang Wudi, has reversed yin and yang and mastered the Qilin Zither. 4th in the world, Xian Xianghua, Tanhua in the human world, Azura in hell. The fifth in the world, Zhou Xuanji, the current Sword Emperor, the owner of the Tianxia map. In a small town in the forest. Jiang Shui, Daoya old man, Xian Xianghua, Zhao Zongjian, and the others gathered together, along with dozens of second-generation disciples. They all looked at Han Shenbua excitedly and listened to him talk about Zhou Xuanji's accomplishments. The Shanghai Ziggurat nominates the fifth in the world, the current Sword Emperor, and the owner of the Tianxia map. Fifth in the world, just one rank away from sect leader Xian. Han Shenbua was so excited that his whole body was trembling. He didn't notice Xian Xianghua's cold gaze. You can boast about Zhou Xuanji. Why did you whip my corpse? Xian Xianghua had never taken being ranked fourth in the world as an honor, but she was still excited for Zhou Xuanji. This kid's growth is too fast. At this rate, how long will it take for him to surpass me? Her eyes lit up as she thought to herself expectantly. Ning Zifeng said excitedly, that was a great tribulation scattered immortal, and he was killed by Master just like that? He knew about the stages above the Great Realization stage. He had seen how powerful Great Tribulation scattered immortals were in the Chaos Tide Sea, and they were ridiculously powerful. Xuanji has really exceeded everyone's expectations, Daoya old man said in amazement. He had guessed that Zhou Xuanji would excite Huangquan Drake King, but he did not expect him to kill him. How difficult was it to kill the fifth in the world? Even Xian Xianghua couldn't do it. If Xian Xianghua knew what he was thinking, she would definitely attack him. She couldn't kill Huangquan Drake King alone. You can rest assured now, right? Huang Lianxin said to Jiang Shui as she covered her mouth and smiled. During this period of time, this girl had always been worried about Zhou Xuanji, and she rarely smiled. Jiang Shui shook her head at her before looking at Han Shenbua and asking, is Xuanji injured? Everyone came back to their senses. After such a huge battle, how could Zhou Xuanji not be injured? He might be, but it shouldn't be serious. He's currently slaying demons in Great Zhou, and he should be back soon, Han Shenbua said. If he was heavily injured, how could Zhou Xuanji dare to run around? Hearing this, Jiang Shui let out a sigh of relief. Within the barren desert, there was a canyon that cut across the land. There was a figure standing on each side of the cliff. It was Dao Seeker and the man in the woven rush raincoat. Both of them had met Zhou Xuanji before. One was curious about Zhou Xuanji's fate, while the other felt that Zhou Xuanji did not deserve the Tianxia map. Dao Seeker narrowed his eyes and looked at the man in the woven rush raincoat as he asked, I didn't expect you to also be paying attention to Zhou Xuanji. What do you want? His tone was a bit serious, as if he was a bit wary of the man in the woven rush raincoat. Can't you divine what I want to do? The man in the woven rush raincoat crossed his arms in front of his chest and pulled on the brim of his conical hat. His tone was just as indifferent as before. The two of them were opposing each other, evidently, they knew each other. Didn't you value Yang Di? Why aren't you paying attention to him? Dao Seeker asked again, his gaze filled with judgment. The man in the woven rush raincoat said faintly, he's already the top in the world, why should I pay attention to him? If I get close to him, he will sense me. Dao Seeker heard him and frowned. Yang Di was already this powerful? Zhou Xuanji has the Tianxia map, and he has great talent. He reached spirit refinement level 5 at the age of 28, and he has the monarchical violet chi. Tell me, is he the 10,000-year prince or the child of fate? The man in the woven rush raincoat asked curiously. Dao Seeker snorted coldly and waved his sleeves to leave. He's neither. I advise you not to pay too much attention to him, or else you will get yourself into trouble. The man in the woven rush raincoat did not stop him but pondered on the spot. More than a month later, Zhou Xuanji and Lin Chunga stopped in the forest at the border of Great Zhou. Have you thought about it? Are you going to take me as your master or part ways? Zhou Xuanji looked sideways at Lin Chunga and asked with a smile. Lin Chunga couldn't fight him at all now. Therefore, the two of them tacitly didn't mention the 10-year promise from before. This is an important matter. I must go back and discuss it with my father. Lin Chunga sighed. These days, Zhou Xuanji intentionally used the ancestral dragon sword every day, which made him fall into the trap of the ancestral dragon sword. Zhou Xuanji nodded and said, "If you've thought it through, come to Skyfall to find me." With that, he walked away. Looking at his back, Lin Chunga sighed faintly before turning into a stream of sword light and leaving. After leaving the forest, Zhou Xuanji flew toward the south at full speed. Since the Tianxia map was exposed, it was time for him to return to Skyfall and cultivate in peace. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 268. Zhou Xuanji traveled at full speed and crossed Juema wasteland within 3 days. The battles between the two races that he encountered along the way were all ended by him with his absolute power. Soon, all sorts of legends about Zhou Xuanji spread around Juema wasteland, which made the demon army retreat quickly and not dare to get close. He had originally wanted to go to Great Qin to see Qin Bantian. That fellow had awakened his yellow dragon bloodline, and he wondered how he was doing. He was thinking that after Qin Bantian ascended to the throne, he would have Great Qin support his sect just like Great Zhou, while his sect would provide support to Great Qin. This was the best of both worlds. But after thinking about it, as long as there were humans or demons, they would be talking about him. It was better for him not to wander around. Huangquan Drake King's fall left the Huangquan path without a leader. Jihuang Demon Lord was even more furious and said that he would find Zhou Xuanji and kill him. Jihuang Demon Lord was much more powerful than Huangquan Drake King. Even if Zhou Xuanji killed Huangquan Drake King, he did not fear Zhou Xuanji. After knowing that Zhou Xuanji had obtained the Tianxia map, Jihuang Demon Lord wanted to kill Zhou Xuanji even more. Once he obtained the Tianxia map, he believed that he would have the power to fight against Yang Di. As such, the entire demon race started to list Zhou Xuanji as a wanted man. If they met Zhou Xuanji, they were not allowed to attack and only needed to report their whereabouts. There was no obstruction along the way. Another half a month passed. Analyzed that the sword owner has reached 29 years old. Gotcha started. Ding. Congratulations sword owner for obtaining Amethyst, World Fool Sword, Hades God-slaying formation. The sword spirit's voice resounded in Zhou Xuanji's mind, and he immediately stopped. Great Hell God-slaying formation. Another sword formation. He was secretly delighted. The destructive power of the 100-star sky-covering sword formation was already strong enough, allowing him to taste the sweetness of a sword formation. Now that he had obtained another sword formation, how could he not be happy? He was not in a hurry to inherit it. Instead, he took out the World Fool sword and continued on his way. 3 lines of words appeared before his eyes. Sword name, World Fool sword grade, Amethyst, description, created by a mysterious magnet. Once this sword is unleashed, all living beings within a radius of 1,000 meters will suffer damage to their intelligence and lose control of their emotions. Zhou Xuanji blinked to make sure that he did not see wrongly. Damaged intelligence? Lower my intelligence? Damn, the sword spirit is really a talent. Delighted, he began to observe the World Fool sword closely. The World Fool sword looked like an ordinary iron sword. Compared to his other legendary swords, it seemed mediocre. He waved his sword, but he didn't feel any special power. From the looks of it, the World Fool sword could only lower one's intelligence. There was no one around, so he could not test out the power of the World Fool sword. Hence, he asked the sword spirit about the Hades God-slaying formation. The Great Hell God-slaying formation is a sword formation that summons the fiends of hell. The fiends will have extreme killing intent towards the people the Swordmaster wants to kill. They will even dare to kill immortals. The strength of the fiends depends on the Swordmaster's luck and strength. They will be summoned randomly, and the duration will not exceed an hour. The sword spirit's explanation brightened Zhou Xuanji's eyes. What's the upper limit of my strength? It depends on the Swordmaster's luck. Generally speaking, demons that far surpass the Swordmaster will not be bewitched by the sword formation. Of course, there are exceptions. Zhou Xuanji nodded. If he was lucky, this sword formation might be a powerful killing move. Although there was only one godly sword for his 29th birthday, he had obtained this sword formation, which was pretty good. His mood became very good, and he hurried on at full speed. Another half a month passed. He finally returned to the small town where Jiang Shui, Xiao Jinghong, and the others were. His arrival was greeted by cheers from everyone in the town. The second-generation disciples even shouted Zhou Xuanji's name. Soon, he saw Jiang Shui. The girl did not care about the others and leaped into his arms. He stroked her hair and said with a smile, "Why? Did you miss me?" "Yeah." Jiang Shui looked up and replied seriously. After that, he returned to the courtyard under the escort of the group. Facing the questions from his trusted subordinates, he did not hide anything and told them about what happened. As for Emperor Hanlin, he hid it from them and only said that he was a great emperor in the Tianxia map. Or else, he would have to explain the origin of the ancient god sword. Lin Chang'e? Great realization level 5? Exquisite sword heart? Ning Zifeng frowned and mumbled to himself. This guy only remembered Lin Chang'e. He had a feeling that this person would be his lifelong enemy. Not an enemy, but a rival. According to Zhou Xuanji, Lin Chang'e had the exquisite sword heart and was as talented as Zhou Xuanji in the Chaos Tide Sea. He also admired the ancestor dragon sword. We should return to Skyfall now. The Tianxia map will bring an even greater disaster, Daoya old man suggested to Zhou Xuanji. He hoped that this boy did not become arrogant. It would not be good for him to continue roaming the battlefield. Zhou Xuanji nodded and said, Yang Di has already appeared, and he still wants to dominate the northern wilderness region. Soon, the demon race will be defeated. Tomorrow morning, we will depart. He had also found Xian Xianghua. Next, he wanted to study the world Buddha art. In the past year, he often absorbed spirit energy and demon energy. Although his cultivation grew rapidly, he felt that his foundation was not stable. As expected, it was difficult to have both. How could it be easy to cultivate quickly and have a stable spirit energy? Hearing this, everyone was delighted. Now, there were dozens of second-generation disciples. They were all talented and intelligent. If they cultivated for a few decades, they would be able to hold their own and recruit the next generation of disciples. Only then would the sect's legacy begin. If there were too many disciples, it would be difficult for them to manage. Zhou Xuanji did a head count. There were 73 second-generation disciples. After he left, Xiao Jinghong and the others expanded their recruitment. All of them were talented. Nightfall. Zhou Xuanji lay on Jiang Shui's thighs and enjoyed her massage. Xuanji, the man in the woven rush raincoat that you met before, was he Tian? Jiang Shui asked curiously. From the man in the woven rush raincoat's words, she could guess that he did not fear Yang Di too much. Zhou Xuanji closed his eyes and said vaguely, "How would I know?" The man in the woven rush raincoat was unfathomable. He might be an immortal powerhouse like Shang Kuanglan. This person was not interested in the Tianxia map. If he wanted to kill him, he would have done so long ago. Jiang Shui continued to think. During the time when Zhou Xuanji was away, Daoya old man taught her the divination technique. Although she was still young, she would be curious whenever she encountered a mysterious and powerful being. She even wanted to divine it. But she was not proficient enough. Zhou Xuanji began to impart the memories of the Hades god-slaying formation. A massive wave of memories entered his mind, and his body trembled. "What's wrong?" Jiang Shui asked, but Zhou Xuanji did not reply. She took a closer look and thought that he had fallen asleep. She caressed his face gently. Recalling the past, she could not help but feel a little dazed. Unknowingly, you have grown so big. In the house, the candlelight flickered, and the place fell into silence. The next morning, Zhou Xuanji and the others packed up and left. Everyone in the small town came to send them off. Some of the second-generation disciples came from this town after all. How many demons are there in Skyfall? How powerful is that 9th-rank demon? Su Yang came up to Xiao Jinghong and asked excitedly. As the senior apprentice brother of the second-generation disciples, he naturally had to find out so that he could act cool in the future. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 269. There are countless demons in Skyfall. That rank 9 demon dragon is called Fenyu Dragon King. You have to call him Lord Dragon King from now on, understand? Xiao Jinghong glared at Su Yang and warned. If he offended Fenyu Dragon King and was trampled to death, he would be heartbroken. In any case, this kid was his first disciple. Su Yang nodded and asked excitedly, I heard from Martial Uncle Zhao that the Patriarch subdued the Dragon King with the ancestral dragon sword. Was it a spectacular scene? The more he knew, the more he could brag to his junior brothers and sisters. Xiao Jinghong told Su Yang everything he knew. No matter what Su Yang asked, he answered everything he could. Of course, he did not tell Su Yang some secrets about Zhou Xuanji. For example, why did Zhou Xuanji have so many legendary swords? Ahead. Zhou Xuanji, Jiang Shui, Xian Xianghua, and Daoya Old Man walked side by side. A person who can talk about Sunlight Emperor and the Tianxia map is not simple. Maybe he is related to the Haotian sect. Xian Xianghua said softly, her beautiful eyes filled with confusion. Why didn't she know that such a person was hiding in the world today? Daoya Old Man said in a low voice, I'm afraid it's not just that. Feng Qiu himself is a legendary earth deity. Back then, Xuanhe and I received guidance from him. He's like half a master to us. If even he can't see through him, then his background is probably even older than the Haotian sect. At the mention of Xuanhe divine monk, he could not help but look sad. Zhou Xuanji looked back and saw that Zhang Kuanglan's hands were tied up and held by a second-generation disciple. The Thunder Demon Sovereign looked so lonely. He was as thin as a match and his eyes were lifeless. Zhang Kuanglan seemed to have suffered greatly during the year he was gone and had become silent. Zhou Xuanji thought to himself and felt that Zhang Kuanglan could be used. Using it as a spirit energy container was really overkill. You are now ranked 5th in the world. When you reach Skyfall, start cultivating the Celestial Devil Rebirth technique. Hearing this, Zhou Xuanji slightly frowned. He had already cultivated the World Buddha art and was not interested in the Great Sun Heavenly Devil Rebirth art. Cultivating an additional cultivation technique might clash with one another, and it would also take up a lot of time. The more cultivation techniques one had, the stronger one would become. We'll talk about it when the time comes. Zhou Xuanji said vaguely. Back at the fallen immortal heavenly lake, she had often suggested to pass on her energy, but he had refused many times. However, this guy just refused to give up. After leaving the town, they slowly walked toward Skyfall. They did not move quickly, as they still had to teach disciples on the way. Zhou Xuanji planned to take the shortest route, and if there were any suitable geniuses in the way of the sword along the way, he would accept them. Every time one was reborn, one's physical body, bone root, and soul force would be perfectly inherited. Although one would not have any cultivation, one would be able to recover very quickly after being reborn. After she finished speaking, Zhou Xuanji asked curiously, "What level are you at?" Xian Xianghua answered, "4th floor." "How many times have you been reborn?" "Twice." "No wonder you're so young. Do you need a beating?" Anger appeared in Xian Xianghua's eyes. Was this brat looking down on her because she was old? Zhou Xuanji muttered, "The cultivation of the Celestial Devil Rebirth technique is a little difficult. It might take a long time to master the 1st level. It took Xian Xiang over 10,000 years to reach the 4th level. It was hard to imagine how long it would take to reach the 9th level. He asked curiously, how many levels did the evil king reach when he was alive? In his heart, he always felt that the Diablo was stronger than Xian Xianghua when he was alive. He's also at the 4th level. His attainments aren't as good as mine. Hearing this, Zhou Xuanji sank into his thoughts. A while later, the two returned to the summit. Zhou Xuanji seized the time to cultivate, while Xian Xianghua sat by the cliff to recuperate. His target was still world reincarnation. In less than 3 days, all the second-generation disciples had already built a small village halfway up the mountain. To prevent demons from attacking, they chose to stay together. In the blink of an eye, 4 months passed. During this period, Liuwu Wolf Demon would occasionally go out to gather information. Recently, something big happened in the demon race. The 8th most powerful cultivator in the world, Nether Ghost, died without even leaving a corpse behind. According to his subordinates, he went to assassinate Zhou Xuanji and never returned. The two powerful beings from the two races divined his fortune and found that there was no longer any sign of him in the northern wilderness region. They were sure that he had died. His death caused all cultivators below the 8th in the northern wilderness top 100 to rise by 1 rank. The news reached Zhou Xuanji and the others, and they all had a strange expression on their faces. It must have been done by that evil demon. Daoya Old Man reminded Zhou Xuanji not to use the Hades god-slaying formation unless it was absolutely necessary. The 8th most powerful cultivator in the world was killed just like that. God knew if he would summon an even more horrifying evil demon. Zhou Xuanji nodded in agreement. He was a little shocked too. The Hades god-slaying formation was more powerful than he imagined. It was the first time it was summoned, and it was already so powerful. It could be used as a life-saving technique. On this day, Zhou Xuanji came to a cliff halfway up the mountain and gathered all the second-generation disciples. Ning Zifeng, Xiao Jinghong, Beixiao Wangjian, Huang Lianxin, and Zhao Congjian were beside him. All the disciples looked at Zhou Xuanji passionately. All along, they had been taught by Xiao Jinghong, Ning Zifeng, and the others. Now that Zhou Xuanji had gathered them together, they had a bold guess, and their hearts began to race. Today, I will teach you a sword formation. From now on, you will practice it for an hour every day, Zhou Xuanji said. Zhou Xuanji said. Hearing this, everyone's eyes lit up. Sword formation. With so many people in formation, they would surely be able to unleash power that surpassed their cultivation stage. Swoosh. Swoosh. Swoosh, numerous legendary swords flew up from Zhou Xuanji's back. Other than the World Fool sword, he took out all his legendary swords. This formation is called the 100-star sky-covering sword formation. Back then, I used this sword formation to subdue Fenyu Dragon King. Zhou Xuanji said with a smile, which made Fenyu Dragon King, who stretched his head out from the sea of clouds, embarrassed. The disciples heard him, and their eyes brightened. Ning Zifeng and Zhao Congjian were excited too. They had witnessed the prowess of the 100-star sky-covering sword formation many times, so they naturally wanted to learn it. At this moment, an ear-piercing sound came. Fenyu Dragon King turned around and roared, "This is Skyfall. No one is allowed to trespass." The dragon roar was domineering and mighty, which made the disciples shudder in fear. "It's okay. My sword slave is here," Zhou Xuanji said with a smile, which shocked Ning Zifeng and the others. Exquisite sword mind, Lin Chang'e. It was Lin Chang'e. He wore a green robe and stood on a sword, looking like a sword immortal who came from the north. He flew over quickly and landed in front of Zhou Xuanji. He half knelt down and cupped his fist. "From today onwards, I, Lin Chang'e, will take Zhou Xuanji as my master. I will officially join the sect that Zhou Xuanji created." He looked excited and had no intention of forcing himself to do so. Ever since he returned to the Hegemon sword sect, he immediately told his father about this, which infuriated his father so much that he beat him up. He did not give up and told his father all about Zhou Xuanji's prowess, which made his father silent. But his father still did not agree. It was only after the eighth in the world died mysteriously because of Zhou Xuanji that his father relented. Zhou Xuanji had already demonstrated the brilliance of the future top cultivator. If Lin Chang'e cultivated with him, he would surely become even more powerful. Although the Hegemon sword sect was a top-tier force, it was inferior to the sanctums. In the world, it could not shake the world. To break through, Zhou Xuanji was the opportunity. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 272. Lin Chang'e. Ranked 76th in the world. The second-generation disciples were in an uproar. Among sword cultivators, Lin Chang'e was very famous, second only to Zhou Xuanji. Of course, the difference in fame between the two was like a chasm. One could only blame the decline of the sword's way. Zhou Xuanji nodded and said, "You came just in time. The 100-star sky-covering sword formation is your Hegemon sword sect's sword formation. You should join and guide these disciples." "Yes, sir." Lin Chang'e got up and said excitedly. He looked at Xiao Jinghong and the others. He was looking for the top sword cultivator overseas. Soon, he locked his eyes on Ning Zifeng. Great realization level 1. "It's this guy." Ning Zifeng stared back at him. Their gazes met, and even though they did not speak, they still felt like they were at loggerheads. "Stop looking. Hurry up and enter the formation." Zhou Xuanji threw them a stare and cursed. Could it be that these two were lovers? Xiao Jinghong and the others entered the formation and practiced the 100-star sky-covering sword formation together. With a thought, the legendary swords above Zhou Xuanji's head separated. He walked to the disciples and pointed at them one by one. "You two, look at that sword. It's the one with the crimson dragon soul coiled around. You three, look at that sword. That's the swine-culling sword. The three of you are too weak. Look at the same sword together. That's the one. Swing with it later. The two of you stand together and help each other." Zhou Xuanji assigned them a target. At least two people should look at the same sword. To prevent anyone from being injured and unable to maintain the formation, at least two people should be assigned to each key point of the sword formation. After a while, the assignment was over. Zhou Xuanji began to control the legendary swords. They moved slowly so that everyone could see them clearly. So powerful. Lin Chang'e was shocked in his heart. It was his first time being taught by Zhou Xuanji. Seeing the legendary swords swinging different sword forms, he was in awe. Even his father could not do it. He was right to come. He had only learned the 100-star sky-covering sword formation but did not practice it in depth. So he was learning from it now. Because Zhou Xuanji was too famous, none of the disciples dared to let their guard down. Together with their intelligence, they memorized every sword form in less than an hour. After memorizing the sword moves, Zhou Xuanji began to teach them how to circulate their qi. Memorizing the sword moves did not mean that one could set up a formation. Every spell had its own unique method of channeling qi. This was one of the difficulties of cultivation. After he finished imparting the qi circulation technique, he stood up. "Continue practicing. Today, all of you will focus on practicing this sword array. If there are any mistakes, promote each other. You are all second-generation disciples. When I establish my own sect, all of you will lead the disciples alone. Therefore, there will be no competition between you for now. You have to help each other, understand?" Zhou Xuanji looked at all the disciples and smiled. He looked young, but he was already quite dignified. Apart from his cultivation level and aura, it was also related to the tyrant imperial ring on his finger. "Understood." The 82nd generation disciples shouted in unison, all of them looking excited. Zhou Xuanji's words made their blood boil. Establishing a sect. They were going to be doyens. When Zhou Xuanji became the top cultivator in the world, they would also ascend with him. "Chang'e, come with me." Zhou Xuanji waved his hand. After that, he leaped up and soared into the clouds. Lin Chang'e followed closely behind. "Humph. Ning Zifeng snorted lightly, but the corner of his mouth was raised slightly. Finally, an opponent came. They could spar often in the future. He wanted to be the most powerful sword cultivator after Zhou Xuanji. On a cliff that was a few hundred meters away, Haotianbor King, Dade Bear Monarch, and the other 8th-ranked demons were looking down. Looking at these energetic disciples, they looked at each other in dismay. I feel that we cannot relax. If they surpass us in the future, Haotianbor King swallowed his saliva and said. These disciples' learning and comprehension abilities were too powerful. They tried to memorize the 100-star sky-covering formation, but they were not as fast as these disciples. They had to watch them practice a few times before they could memorize it. Jingtian Eagle said with a cold face, yes, we must not embarrass the 4 mountain guarding kings. 4 mountain guarding kings. This was the title that Zhou Xuanji gave them. As the name suggested. On the other side, Zhou Xuanji brought Lin Chang'e to the top of the mountain. Lin Chang'e was stunned. The stars hung above his head, as though he could touch them with his hand. The awe he felt was indescribable. He noticed Xian Xianghua and Zhou Xiaoqi, the top cultivator of the evil sects. The legendary divine beast, Qilin. He was shocked in his heart. As for Jiang Shui and Daoya Old Man, he ignored them. Since you chose to take me as your master, I will not mistreat you. I will now teach you the hegemon sword emperor's inheritance. Zhou Xuanji turned around and said to Lin Chang'e. He wanted to teach the sky-dominating divine sword to this brat. Now, the sky-dominating divine sword was not his most powerful sword technique, so it was fine to teach it to him. With Lin Chang'e's talent, it would take him at least a few decades to master the sky-dominating divine sword. If it were an ordinary person, he would not be able to master it in his lifetime. Lin Chang'e heard him and opened his eyes wide. His breathing hastened, and his heart beat rapidly. Zhou. Master, is what you said true? He asked carefully. He felt as though a pleasant surprise had fallen on his head. Zhou Xuanji took out the dog-culling sword and said, the hegemon sword emperor's inheritance is his sword and sword technique. I will not give you the sword, but I can give you the sword technique. This sword technique is called the sky-dominating divine sword. Have you heard of it? Sky-dominating divine sword. Lin Chang'e swallowed his saliva and replied, I've heard of it. In the hegemon sword sect's ancestral shrine, there is an ancient record of the sky-dominating divine sword. Legend has it that our ancestor became unrivaled with this sword technique. Zhou Xuanji nodded and began swinging his sword, displaying the sword moves of the sky-dominating divine sword one by one. Lin Chang'e watched intently, afraid that he would miss any detail. Far away, Xian Xianghua opened her eyes and smiled inwardly. This brat really knows how to win people's hearts. After that, she continued to recuperate. Jiang Shui glanced at Zhou Xuanji but did not pay much attention to him. She continued to listen to Daoya Old Man's divination. One had to admit that the exquisite swordmind's talent was indeed domineering. Lin Chang'e had a photographic memory. Zhou Xuanji only demonstrated it once, and he memorized all the sword moves. Then, he began practicing with his sword. Zhou Xuanji watched from the side and felt satisfied. When Lin Chang'e mastered the sky-dominating divine sword, he would become one of Skyfall's most powerful cultivators. 2 hours later, Lin Chang'e descended the mountain excitedly. Zhou Xuanji asked him to stay with the second-generation disciples so that they could bond more easily. Night fell. Zhou Xuanji began cultivating the world Buddha art by the cliff. He had a premonition. He was about to master the second level, world reincarnation. As for how soon it would be, it could be a few months or a few years. But it would not be more than 10 years. Life returned to normal. Everyone was working hard on their cultivation. But the good times did not last long. One day after a month, thousands of cultivators surrounded Skyfall. Even the weakest cultivator was at astral projection level 5, and there were 3 great realization cultivators. The leader was a man in a purple robe. He had a medium build and looked ordinary, but there was a small flame levitating between his brows. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 273. Zhou Xuanji, hand over the Tianxia map. You will not be able to escape. The purple-robed man shouted loudly. His name was Zhu Hanlong, and his cultivation base was at Mahayana Stage 7. He was ranked 39th in the Northern Wilderness Top 100, and his name shook the entire region. The cultivators behind him were all excited. Tianxia map. Hearing these 3 words, they were moved. Humph. You're courting death. Lin Changa's cold snort was heard. Then, a beam of sword aura that was 1,000 feet long broke through the sea of clouds and charged toward them. The purple-robed man raised his palm and slapped it down. A huge tiger head appeared out of thin air and shattered the sword chi. As soon as he retracted his palm, the tiger head turned into smoke and dissipated. Lin Changa flew over, and Ning Zifeng followed him. The 2 of them frowned slightly when they saw so many cultivators. Skyfall was in the territory of the demons. If Jihuang Demon Lord knew how so many experts had rushed over, he would definitely take action. Could it be that they had already colluded with Jihuang Demon Lord? The 2 of them were not afraid. Instead, they were eager to try. Let's compete and see who can kill more. Ning Zifeng raised his brows and asked provocatively. Lin Changa snorted and said, let's compete then. Without another word, the 2 of them raised their swords and charged forward. A great battle immediately broke out. At the top of the mountain, Zhou Xuanji was still cultivating. Daoya old man walked up to him and said, be careful. With a sweep of his divine consciousness, he could clearly see the lineup below. In the entire human race, there wasn't a single sacred ground that had so many spirit refinement cultivators. In other words, these people came from various forces and joined forces to seize the Tianxia map. Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes and frowned. What will come will come. However, he was not afraid. Besides Lin Changa and Ning Zifeng, there was also Fenyu Dragon King, which was enough to defend against the next wave of attacks. He stood up, looked at Xian Xianghua, and asked, hey, how are your injuries? This old demonic woman was a great tribulation scattered immortal. Even if he was injured, he was not someone a Mahayana cultivator could threaten. It's all right. It's not a problem to deal with these minions. Xian Xianghua replied without opening her eyes. She was as domineering as ever. As expected of the dragon's proud flower. Can you find the mastermind? Zhou Xuanji asked Daoya old man. After he killed the 5th and 8th in the world, those who dared to make trouble for him would definitely be even more powerful. He first thought of Jihuang Demon Lord. Daoya old man closed his eyes and pinched his fingers together to calculate. After a while, he opened his eyes and frowned. There is demonic aura. Other than Jihuang Demon Lord, there shouldn't be any other demon that dares to target you. Zhou Xuanji rubbed his chin and began thinking. Why didn't Jihuang Demon Lord do it himself? Could it be that he wanted to test his strength? No matter what, a bitter battle was coming. He immediately sent a telepathic message to Xiao Jinghong, who was at the foot of the mountain, and asked him to gather all the disciples in case they were ambushed. Boom! 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 Under the sea of clouds came the sound of explosions one after another, and one could faintly hear the battle cries of cultivators. Zhou Xuanji observed the battle with his mind. Lin Changa and Ning Zifeng were surrounded by 3 great realization cultivators and were at a disadvantage. But from the looks of it, they could still hold on for a while. It was a good opportunity for them to temper themselves. When they could no longer hold on, Fenyu Dragon King would take action. Meanwhile, 10,000 miles away, Jihuang Demon Lord stood on the peak of a mountain and looked into the distance. From here, he could vaguely see Skyfall's silhouette. Behind him, an old demon wearing a Taoist robe stood in human form. He had a head of white hair and a kind face. If not for the bull tail on his back, others might mistake him for an immortal. Sovereign, what are you afraid of? The old demon in the Taoist robe asked. As the second in the world, was there a need to be afraid of the fifth? This was not Jihuang Demon Lord's style. Humph, why would I be afraid? I only want to lure him out before suppressing him. Jihuang Demon Lord snorted coldly. Although Zhou Xuanji killed Huangquan Drake King, it was not a threat to him. He was confident that he could kill Huangquan Drake King after all. But he was indeed a little afraid. With the Tianxia map and Xian Xianghua, who would dare to charge forward? He was not a nether ghost who had multiple lives. It was strange that a nether ghost with multiple lives died immediately. There must be something wrong. Fate Ox, how is Daoya Old Man's divination compared to yours? Jihuang Demon Lord asked suddenly. Almost every major faction had someone who was proficient in divination and divination. Only by doing so could they avoid disasters and develop in the long run. Of course not as good as me. The old demon in the Taoist robe, who was called Fate Ox, replied arrogantly. Among the demons, his divination technique was the most powerful. He had contributed a lot to Jihuang Demon Lord's progress. Or else, with Jihuang Demon Lord's personality, how could he have grown to where he was today? Without him, he would have died long ago. This was also why Jihuang Demon Lord valued him so much. I have heard that although a Qilin appeared when Zhou Xuanji was born, his lifespan was short. If not for Daoya Old Man changing his fate, he would have died long ago. Now, no one can divine Zhou Xuanji's fate. Tell me, what fate did Daoya Old Man change for him? Jihuang Demon Lord looked straight ahead and asked slowly. The Tianxia map and the Celestial Devil Rebirth technique were at Skyfall. He could not wait to crush Skyfall with a punch. Fate Ox was stunned and fell into deep thought with a frown. He could not answer this question. He knew how to change fate too, but he could not change Zhou Xuanji's fate. Jihuang Demon Lord did not speak anymore, and the two demons fell into silence. Sometime later, a domineering dragon roar came from Skyfall. Fenyu Dragon King had joined the battle. His participation changed the situation straight away. Damn! Why isn't Jihuang Demon Lord attacking? The purple-robed man cursed with gritted teeth. Blood was flowing from his face, and he looked a little pathetic. The other two great realization cultivators were also in a miserable state. They were severely injured. Lin Chang'e and Ning Zifeng were panting as they stared at him fiercely. The domineering Fenyu Dragon King stood between them. Scorching lava flowed all over his body, which frightened the cultivators so much that they backed off. If you continue to be stubborn, I will eat you. Fenyu Dragon King roared furiously. His voice swept up a powerful gale, which shook the forest below like a tsunami in a green ocean. The cultivators were furious too, but they did not dare to go against Fenyu Dragon King's aura. Humph, I want to see if you can eat them. At this moment, Jihuang Demon Lord's cold laughter came. His voice shook the heavens and earth, and it was even more domineering than Fenyu Dragon King's. He came walking in the air with Fate Ox behind him. Seeing him coming, Fenyu Dragon King's expression changed drastically. Lin Chang'e and Ning Zifeng's eyelids twitched violently too. Second in the world. Great tribulation scattered immortal. Jihuang Demon Lord looked up at Skyfall. Zhou Xuanji, the Tianxia map is not something you can have. If you hand over the Tianxia map, I can consider sparing your life, he said with a mocking smile. After that, he pressed down with his right hand. Before Fenyu Dragon King could react, he felt a formless giant mountain smashing into his body. He fell into the forest, sweeping up a cloud of dust, and the ground shook violently. Calm. Wonderful book house. Chapter 276. Of course I will look for opportunities, but I won't set my eyes on the Tianxia map. I don't deserve such a treasure. Even if I get it, it will bring trouble to the Jiang clan. Jiang Wudi explained as cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Xian Xianghua's impression of him was simply too poor, and this was not a good thing. Zhou Xuanji ignored Xian Xianghua and asked, "Can you tell me what serendipity you are looking for overseas?" "There's someone from overseas in Skyfall. If you can convince me, we can work together in the future." Jiang Wudi's eyes widened when he heard that. "People from overseas?" He anxiously asked, "Where is he?" Xian Xianghua glanced at him, and he was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. He quickly retracted his attitude. Jiang Wudi immediately told him the reason. "To tell you the truth, I accidentally entered a cave and found the words left behind by a great tribulation scattered celestial. He came from overseas, and his name was Dao Hongchen. He claimed that there were countless dynasties, and even the Great Fate dynasty above the ocean. This person obtained a heaven and earth stone by chance. Legend has it that the heaven and earth stone contains the power of heaven and earth. After this was exposed, he was chased by countless enemies. In the end, he hid the heaven and earth stone on a small island overseas and came to the northern wilderness region himself. However, he attracted a powerful enemy. The demonic emperor bloodline." Jiang Wudi's expression turned solemn as he spoke. Demonic emperor bloodline? What the hell was that? Zhou Xuanji looked confused. Xian Xianghua frowned, and said, "The bloodline of the demonic emperor. Legend has it that this race only has a single descendant, and a demonic emperor will appear in every generation. Once awakened, they will possess invincible power. They are bloodthirsty by nature, and even they cannot control themselves. Up until now, the descendant of the demonic emperor bloodline hasn't appeared in 15,000 years. The last descendant of the demonic emperor bloodline fought against the evil king and the hegemon sword emperor alone. At that time, 20 great tribulations scattered immortals gathered together before they managed to kill him. In that battle, aside from the evil king and the hegemon sword emperor, everyone else died. Since then, the northern wilderness region's fate has declined. Until today, the number of great tribulations scattered immortals is far less than before." Zhou Xuanji fell into deep thought. No wonder people often said that this era was not as good as 10,000 years ago. After the hegemon sword emperor, there had never been a true great emperor. He wasn't sure what a great emperor was. A true great emperor wasn't as simple as claiming to be. It was said that he needed the approval of the heavens and earth, and that he needed to be imbued with fate energy. Wait, what does this have to do with the demonic emperor bloodline? Jiang Shui couldn't help but interrupt. For some reason, she didn't have a good impression of this great ancestor. Because of Zhou Xuanji, Jiang Wudi's attitude towards her was completely different, so she had to be on guard. Jiang Wudi glanced at her and shook his head with a smile. "Xiao Shui, don't be anxious. I'm not done yet." Little Snow? Everyone's expression was strange, and they felt a chill run down their spines. Could this old fellow not be so attentive? The fortuitous opportunity overseas is that world stone, but Dao Hongchen's last words predicted that the successor of the demonic emperor bloodline would think of a way to obtain that world stone. In other words, if we want to obtain the world stone, we might have to face the successor of the demonic emperor bloodline. Jiang Wudi sighed with an ugly expression. He gritted his teeth and said, "The descendants of the demonic emperor bloodline are like the 10,000-year princes. Once they are born, they will be invincible, or even more exaggerated." He looked at Zhou Xuanji and Xian Xianghua expectantly. It would be best if he had the help of these two people. As for who would obtain the world stone, he already had a plan. "If you are willing to help me, once we obtain the world stone, we can take turns to comprehend it. I will provide the map, manpower, and resources. I don't ask for much, I just want to break through heaven's secrets and ascend as soon as possible," Jiang Wudi said seriously. Ascension was something he yearned for day and night, and it was almost becoming a demon in his heart. Apart from becoming an emperor of an empire and ascending every 1,000 years, it was very difficult for ordinary people to ascend. It was not that he did not want to become an emperor, but he gave up on it. An emperor of an empire was mighty in the mortal realm, but if he ascended, he would be subdued by the immortals of the upper realm. He would never have freedom, and it would be difficult for him to improve his cultivation. No one knew the reason behind this, but this legend had long spread throughout the northern wilderness region. Almost everyone who stepped into the cultivation world knew about it. Jiang Wudi was proud. He would rather be the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and said, "Let's talk about it in the future. Skyfall has not stabilized yet." Jiang Wudi nodded and smiled. "Of course, we have to think about this at length." He still had his lifespan, so there was indeed no hurry. Xian Xianghua said disdainfully, "The sea-freezing stone is in my hands." "Of course, you are not in a hurry." Jiang Wudi heard her, and his mouth twitched. After that, they chatted for a while more before Jiang Wudi left. According to him, Jihuang Demon Lord could not keep an eye on Zhou Xuanji for a long time. After all, the two races were at war. Daoya Old Man reminded Zhou Xuanji, "The descendant of the demonic emperor bloodline is like a world-destroying demon. He is born to be bloodthirsty and is even more difficult to deal with than a 10,000-year prince. If you offend him, it will not be a good thing." Zhou Xuanji nodded. He had the Tianxia map, so why would he need the World Stone? 10,000-year prince, Tian, the descendant of the demonic emperor bloodline, just thinking about it gave him a headache. How could there be so many overpowered people? Each of them sounded like the main characters of the world. In the next period of time, Zhou Xuanji asked the 4 mountain-guarding kings to gather all the demons within a radius of 10,000 miles so that they could gather information and spread the news. How powerful were the 4 8th-grade demons? In less than 10 days, they had subdued more than 200,000 demons, most of whom were weak, with the momentum of the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves. But the weaker they were, the more inconspicuous they would be, and it would be harder for the enemy to discover them. A month later, a shocking piece of news shook the entire northern wilderness region. Jihuang Demon Lord encountered Yang Di. Within 10 rounds, Jihuang Demon Lord suffered a crushing defeat and escaped with severe injuries. Once the news spread, the two races were in an uproar. The humans were exhilarated, while the demons were terrified. The first and second in the world had such a huge difference in power. Everyone understood that the war between the two races was about to turn around. Liuwu Demon Wolf told Zhou Xuanji about the news. He was shocked and could not calm down. Back then, he respected Jihuang Demon Lord. He did not expect Yang Di to defeat Jihuang Demon Lord so easily. Zhou Xuanji heard about it and frowned. He had witnessed Jihuang Demon Lord's prowess. He was like a god and could not be resisted by the current him. Such a powerful cultivator was defeated in less than 10 rounds. With their power, 10 rounds were like the blink of an eye. Which meant that Jihuang Demon Lord was defeated by Yang Di instantly. Seems like Yang Di broke through again. Daoya Old Man sighed in amazement. Such a person should have appeared 10,000 years ago. In the current age, he was truly the most outstanding individual, and no one could rival him. Xian Xianghua frowned. Her eyes were filled with displeasure. Zhou Xuanji gathered everyone at the top of the mountain, including the second-generation disciples. He told them about Jihuang Demon Lord's defeat, and everyone was dumbfounded. They had witnessed Jihuang Demon Lord's prowess before, but they did not expect such a person to suffer such a crushing defeat. For the next period of time, everyone, focus on cultivating and practicing your sword. Try not to go out. With Yang Di, the demons will surely be defeated. Don't worry too much about your families. Zhou Xuanji said, and the disciples nodded. Zhou Xuanji's understanding of world reincarnation had reached a critical point. Somehow, he felt that something was missing. Just a little. Once he comprehended it, he would be able to cultivate world reincarnation. The amount of spiritual energy required for world reincarnation was already sufficient. He had even practiced the mental cultivation method countless times. Just one step away. Sometimes, you can only reap the rewards if you let go. Xian Xianghua's voice suddenly entered his ears. He opened his eyes and saw Xian Xianghua standing beside him, looking at the starry sky. He sat cross-legged and had to look up at her. He didn't say anything, instead pondering over the meaning of her words. When I cultivated the celestial devil rebirth technique, I encountered many cultivation shackles, whether it was in terms of techniques, magical spells, or divine abilities. Often, when you long for a goal too much, you will lose yourself. Xian Xianghua said with deep meaning. She had observed Zhou Xuanji for a long time. This boy always looked like he was in a dilemma. She did not want to care too much. After all, everyone had their own path of cultivation. However, Jiang Shui felt heartache and could not help but find her, hoping that she could help. On Skyfall, Xian Xianghua's cultivation was the highest. Even in the northern wilderness region, she was at the peak of cultivation. Lost, Zhou Xuanji frowned and sank into deep thought again. Xian Xianghua lightly patted his head and harumphed, "Little husband, do you really not understand, or are you pretending not to understand?" Zhou Xuanji felt quite surprised. He suddenly came to a realization. So that's how it is. World reincarnation, everything is reincarnation. From nothing to something, from something to nothing, from not knowing to memorizing, from memorizing to forgetting, Zhou Xuanji mumbled to himself, his eyes becoming brighter. Xian Xianghua was attracted by his words. He did not notice that he had entered a state of enlightenment. World reincarnation could completely reflect the power of an enemy. Apart from this, there were other effects, but he would only understand them after truly cultivating them. At this moment, he finally understood. He had practiced world reincarnation circulation technique countless times, and it had almost become an instinct of his body. At the last step, he should forget to let his body control world reincarnation. Let his soul control world reincarnation. And not his memories. Billowing spirit chi gathered toward him, forming a hurricane. Everyone on the mountain peak looked over. Jiang Shui looked pleasantly surprised, while Daoya old man stroked his long beard and smiled, while the others sighed in amazement. Master broke through again, Zhao Congjian said excitedly. Zhao Congjian said excitedly. Could it be another powerful sword technique? Xian Xianghua looked at Zhou Xuanji with a strange expression. This boy, her heart trembled. Even though she wanted to enlighten Zhou Xuanji, she did not expect him to gain enlightenment so quickly. And he had broken through directly. This kind of talent in comprehension, Zhou Xuanji had completely comprehended world reincarnation, and the spirit energy in his body went through a qualitative change. He could feel a strange energy lingering around him, changing his physical body and spiritual energy. This feeling was very mysterious. He could not explain it clearly. However, he suddenly remembered what Daoya old man had said. There were many things in the world that the naked eye and divine sense could not capture, such as fate and fate. Or the heavenly law. Only these things could explain what he was feeling. The onlooker sees the game more clearly than the player involved. What a world reincarnation. Zhou Xuanji sighed in amazement in his heart. The world Buddha art was a top-notch divine art. How could anyone bear to forget it after learning it? Even if he wanted to, it would be difficult. If not for his innate talent of multitasking, it would be difficult for him to do so in such a short time. Of course, he could also seal his memories with spells, but that would obstruct his physical memories. Spirit chi flowed into his body wildly, and his spirit energy grew tremendously during the transformation process. A purple meteor streaked across the starry sky and disappeared in an instant. There seemed to be a meteor just now, the little black snake said in surprise. But it was a pity that no one paid attention to it because everyone's attention was on Zhou Xuanji. Time ticked by. A full 6 hours passed. Zhou Xuanji broke through to spirit refinement level 7 straight away. At the same time, he finally learned world reincarnation and cultivated it into a divine ability. A faintly discernible and strange pattern appeared on his forehead. At first glance, it looked like a purple 8 trigrams diagram. Boom! He felt an explosion in his mind, and his senses transformed. His perception of his surroundings became dozens of times stronger. He could even sense other people's spirit energy. The most powerful one was Xian Xianghua. Her spirit energy was like a blazing sun, burning fiercely. Before her, the spirit energy of others was so insignificant. Analyze that the sword owner has learned a divine ability. Gotcha started. Ding! Congratulations, the sword owner obtained, intimidating spirit. Calm. Wonderful book house. Chapter 279. After comprehending the world reincarnation divine ability, Zhou Xuanji took an hour to get used to his new senses. His spirit energy had gone through a great transformation in both quantity and quality. Putting aside world reincarnation, he was like a completely different person compared to before. If he used world reincarnation, he could instantly kill his previous self. He once again regained the confidence to look down on the world. Ever since he saw Jihuang Demon Lord's power and knew that Jihuang Demon Lord was easily defeated by Yang Di, he had always felt pressured. Even if he did not want to admit it, it was indeed there. Would someone as powerful as Yang Di really ignore the Tianxia map? Zhou Xuanji slowly opened his eyes, and a brilliant light flashed in them. Wait, when I comprehended world reincarnation, there seemed to be 2 more legendary swords. He suddenly remembered something. Following this, the information of the 2 legendary swords appeared before his eyes. Sword name, Heavenly Retribution Martial Punishment Grade, Intimidating Spirit Description, a legendary sword born when the world was created. It contains a trace of the might of the heavenly law and is extremely destructive. With the martial punishment, it can greatly increase the strength of the sword owner's body. Evil demons will not be able to get close to it, and it cannot be used by those below the Great Realization stage. Sword name, Spring Water Sword Grade, Silver Description, a sword that has undergone a qualitative change after being soaked in 1,000-year-old spring water. When fighting in water, it is like a fish in water. Intimidating Spirit Legendary Sword. Fudge. Is this real? Zhou Xuanji immediately jumped up from the ground as if he had been injected with chicken blood. He clenched his fists and breathed heavily. He was so excited that his body trembled. Heavenly Retribution Martial Punishment. It contained a trace of the might of the heavenly law. However, the requirement for this sword was the Great Realization stage, which made him feel a little disappointed. This showed how powerful Heavenly Retribution Martial Punishment was. He had already reached Spirit Refinement Level 7 and was very close to the Great Realization stage. Now that he had cultivated the World Buddha art to Level 2, his internalization of Qi would be much faster than before. Breaking through to the Great Realization stage would not be too far away. Thinking about that, he felt even more joyful. At that moment, the others came up to him. Revered teacher, you broke through? Master, what were you comprehending just then? Xuanji, are you all right? Ha ha ha, as expected from my grand disciple. Amazing. Master, was it a sword technique? Everyone was incredibly excited. Yang Di had appeared out of nowhere and dominated the heavens and earth. Under such circumstances, the stronger Zhou Xuanji was, the happier they would be. Facing their questions, Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, all of you, attack me. He wanted to test the power of world reincarnation. Everyone was stunned and felt a little guilty. Zhou Xuanji was already extremely powerful before he broke through, let alone now. Don't worry, I won't fight back. Zhou Xuanji said with a mysterious smile. After saying this, he activated the world reincarnation divine ability. Sneaky people like the little black snake and Chongming demon monarch might suddenly attack and catch him off guard. As expected, Chongming demon monarch was the first to attack, throwing a punch. He activated all of his body's demonic force, his power reaching its peak. This fist was unstoppable, pressing forward courageously, tyrannical to the extreme. Bang! Before Chongming Demon Monarch's fist could touch Zhou Xuanji, he could already feel the rebound of his demonic energy. Puff! He spat out a mouthful of blood as his body flew backwards. He leaped over many buildings and fell down the mountain from the other side of Skyfall. The others who were about to make a move were frightened out of their wits. They retreated one after another, not daring to make a move. The little black snake that had already leaped into the air froze in fright. It fell to the ground and curled up into a ball, shivering. So close. The group swallowed their saliva and felt a trace of gratitude toward Chongming Demon Monarch. Xian Xianghua thought about it and asked curiously, "You didn't use any spirit energy. How did you send him flying?" "A divine ability. A very strange divine ability." As the top evil cultivator, she could tell at a glance. But she could not see how powerful this divine ability was. Zhou Xuanji shrugged and said with a smile, "Because I am the heavens. Anyone who dares to harm the heavens shall be punished by the heavens." Xian Xianghua rolled her eyes. This brat really knew how to boast. Ning Zifeng, Lin Changge, and Zhao Zongjian came up to him and expressed their desire to learn. Zhou Xuanji cursed at them. This was not a sword technique but his energy technique. There was no way they could learn it. The three heard him and were like deflated balloons. They knew that Zhou Xuanji's energy technique was not simple and required massive amounts of spirit energy. If they learned it, their progress would be slow because they did not have the Tianxia map after all. Zhou Xuanji chatted with them for a while before continuing his cultivation. He wanted to completely control his senses and spirit energy, which could not be achieved in a day. Seeing that Zhou Xuanji had become more powerful, the others were stimulated and worked hard on their cultivation. Halfway up the mountain, Chongming Demon Monarch, who was covered in blood, lay unsteadily in the forest. Blood was bubbling from his mouth, and his eyes were rolled back. His right leg was still twitching slightly. "Why? Why?" he said with difficulty. He could not understand what had just happened. But this battle had cast a shadow over his heart. He would not dare to attack Zhou Xuanji again, even if it was requested by Zhou Xuanji. A second-generation disciple ran over. Seeing Chongming Demon Monarch's miserable state, he cried out immediately, "Chongming Old Bull is going to die." Chongming Demon Monarch heard him and fainted in anger. In the middle of the northern wilderness region, on a grassy plain, Chief Monk Xuanhe led a group of monks ahead. Their faces were rosy, and they were no longer as miserable as before. Suddenly, someone walked toward them, which made Chief Monk Xuanhe squint his eyes. It was Feng Qiu. "Xuanhe, long time no see. It seems like you are fine." Feng Qiu chuckled and came up to Chief Monk Xuanhe in 3 steps. They were less than a meter apart. Chief Monk Xuanhe asked, "Why are you looking for me?" "Tanhua sect has fallen. Could it be that you want me to deal with Yang Di?" Now, Yang Di was the only one who dominated the world. No one could stop him. "Do you really understand Yang Di?" Feng Qiu asked, which made Chief Monk Xuanhe frown. Ever since he achieved great accomplishment in his dharma, Feng Qiu always came to him for help. The most powerful cultivators in the world would be targeted by Feng Qiu. For example, Xian Xianghua and Jihuang Demon Lord were both schemed against by Feng Qiu. After the tribulation with Jihuang Demon Lord, Chief Monk Xuanhe thought through many things. He did not plan to participate in worldly battles anymore. He only wanted to become more powerful. The true tribulation is about to descend. You are the top Buddhist cultivator in the world and should save the world. You cannot run away from your responsibilities, Feng Qiu said seriously. He looked at Zhou Xuanji as if he was looking at his savior. Chief Monk Xuanhe shook his head and said, "You are indeed my teacher, but I cannot help you anymore. What you want is not world peace but the ruler of the world. I helped you deal with Yang Di. Next time, do I have to deal with Jiang Wudi and Zhou Xuanji?" He was quite confused. Since Feng Qiu wanted to fight for the world, why did he not do it himself? Having heard this, Feng Qiu's expression darkened and he said, "This tribulation will engulf the northern wilderness region. Even if you don't do anything, the tribulation will come to you. Take care. With that, he disappeared into thin air. Chief Monk Xuanhe was indifferent. A young monk asked anxiously, "Master, where are we going next?" Chief Monk Xuanhe replied calmly, "The North Shore, to search for the immortal Buddha's legacy." Smiley face. Smiley face. Chapter 280. Over a month later. Zhou Xuanji was completely familiar with world reincarnation and his new senses. He began to focus on increasing his cultivation level, and did not immediately cultivate the third level of the world Buddha art. His goal was the Mahayana realm. The sooner he broke through to the Mahayana realm, the less worried he would have to worry about Jihuang Demon Lord's attack. As for the fight with Sunlight Emperor, he was not sure. Because even Xian Xianghua didn't know how strong Sunlight Emperor was now. Analyzed that the sword owner has reached 31 years old. Gotcha started. Ding. Congratulations, the sword owner has obtained, Gold, Spring Wind Sword, Emperor's Way Thousand Hand Sword Buddha. The sword spirit's voice continuously sounded in Zhou Xuanji's mind, causing him to open his eyes. Just a divine sword? Furthermore, it was only a gold-ranked godly sword. Zhou Xuanji was inwardly disappointed. It seemed that he had used his luck on heavenly retribution martial punishment. 3 lines of words appeared before his eyes. Sword name, Spring Breeze Sword Level, Gold, Description, created by the Divine Spirit Stone. This sword can weaken the enemy's negative emotions and make them happy. A sword that could make people happy? What the hell? He subconsciously took out the Spring Breeze sword. The sword was blue in color and looked like a crystal, appearing rather dreamy. Wait, this sword might be useful in negotiations. Just like the World Fool sword, it was a support-type godly sword. After playing with the Spring Breeze sword for a while, Zhou Xuanji stored it in the supreme storage and began to inherit the Emperor's Way Thousand Hand Sword Buddha. This name sounded incredible. It must be an extremely powerful sword technique. A huge wave of memories entered his mind, causing him to slowly close his eyes. Apart from him, only Jiang Shui and Daoya Old Man were on the mountain peak. The others were all cultivating in different parts of Skyfall. The reason was simple. If they internalized qi together, they could not compete with Zhou Xuanji. Recently, Xian Xianghua had been acting mysteriously, as if she was plotting something. Jiang Shui was quite talented in the Tao of divination. She could already perform simple divination and predict some small things that would happen a day later. Daoya Old Man had exclaimed more than once that Jiang Shui might be able to surpass him in the future. It seemed that aside from the way of the sword, this girl's talent in other Daos was quite good. There is a sense of omnipotence. It complemented Zhou Xuanji perfectly. After the time it takes to burn half an incense stick. Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes in amazement. Such a domineering sword technique. Its destructive power was even stronger than the ancestral dragon sword. The Emperor's Way Thousand Hand Sword Buddha, upon reaching grand completion, would be able to condense sword chi into a 1,000-hand sword Buddha. Each hand would wield a sword, capable of destroying the heavens and earth. There were a total of 1,000 sword moves in this sword art. It was profound and unfathomable. He took out the Spring Breeze sword and started practicing. Once this sword appeared, his mood became joyful. Not only him, but Jiang Shui and Daoya Old Man also felt the same. This kid comprehended a new sword technique again? Daoya Old Man stroked his beard and smiled, his eyes filled with anticipation. Jiang Shui smiled. Her hands did not stop as she continued to draw the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. The Tao of divination also required spiritual qi. After all, the things she divined were all in the world, and spiritual qi was the medium. Zhou Xuanji spent nearly 10 minutes practicing the Emperor's Way Thousand-Hand Sword Buddha's sword technique once. For the current him, 10 minutes was enough to accomplish many things. The more difficult the Emperor's Way Thousand-Hand Sword Buddha was, the more he anticipated it. Night fell. Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Tsongjian, and the others ascended the mountain one after another. When they saw Zhou Xuanji training with his sword, their eyes lit up. This kid has already practiced for a day. It seems like this sword technique is not simple. Daoya old man said intently, which made Zhao Congjian, Xiao Jinghong, Ning Zifeng, Beishao Wangjian, Huang Lianxin, and Lin Chang'e all excited. Could it be a sword technique that could rival the ancestral dragon sword? In their hearts, the ancestral dragon's sword was already the most powerful sword technique. It would be very difficult for them to create a more powerful sword technique. Zhou Xuanji ignored them and continued to train with his sword. The next morning, he finally reached small accomplishment in the Emperor's Way Thousand-Hand Sword Buddha. At dusk, he reached great accomplishment in the Emperor's Way Thousand-Hand Sword Buddha. His sword speed was so fast that even great realization cultivators were dazzled. Late at night, he developed the sword will of the Emperor's Way Thousand-Hand Sword Buddha. Once he used this sword technique, his mind would turn into the Thousand-Hand Sword Buddha. He took a deep breath and flew into the air, arriving above the sea of clouds next to Skyfall. He shook his long sword, and a golden Buddha image appeared from his body and expanded rapidly. In the blink of an eye, the golden Buddha image grew to a height of 300 meters. Its palms were placed before its chest, and its facial features were exactly the same as Zhou Xuanji's. The Buddha image shone with a golden radiance that illuminated the night sky. Jiang Shui, Xiao Jinghong, and the others opened their eyes wide. Even Daoya old man was shocked. Buddha? He was astonished. When did Zhou Xuanji come into contact with Buddhism? At this moment, numerous golden arms grew out from the back of the Buddha image. There were 1,000 of them, which dazzled everyone's eyes. What happened next was even more shocking. A giant golden sword materialized in each of the Buddha image's hands. The shape of the sword was exactly the same as the Spring Breeze sword. The Emperor's Way Thousand-Hand Sword Buddha had truly appeared. Everyone at the top of Skyfall was stunned, their mouths agape. Even Xian Xianghua, who had just appeared, opened her eyes wide and was speechless for a long time. This brat, Xian Xianghua, was shocked in her heart. It was her first time seeing a sword technique that was related to Buddhism. This brat was much more profound than she had imagined. Master, what sword technique is this? Zhao Congjian came back to his senses and asked excitedly. Zhou Xuanji entered the Emperor's Way Thousand-Hand Sword Buddha's sword will mode. His entire body sank into the Thousand-Hand Sword Buddha, turning into the Thousand-Hand Sword Buddha. The Thousand-Hand Sword Buddha opened its eyes, which gave off 2 rays of golden light that illuminated the night sky. This is the Emperor's Way Thousand-Hand Sword Buddha, a sword within a Buddha within a sword. Zhou Xuanji said. His voice was loud and clear, and it gave off an immense might, as if he was a god. The Thousand-Hand Sword Buddha's might was very powerful, and it was not any weaker than the ancestor dragon sword. Lin Chang'e gripped his fists, and his breathing became ragged. He wanted to learn this sword technique. However, he had not even learned the ancestor dragon sword yet, and he was still far from learning the Emperor's Way Thousand-Hand Sword Buddha. Daoya old man pinched his fingers together and tried to divine the origins of this sword technique. Pfft, he spat out a mouthful of blood. His legs gave way and he fell straight to the ground. No one paid any attention to him because they were already used to it. Xian Xianghua looked at Zhou Xuanji and thought to herself, could it be that he used the Thousand-Hand Devil's sword technique as a reference? When the others heard this, they also felt that it made sense. At the mention of this, they could not help but think of Qin Gang. They did not know if this fellow was still alive in the underworld path and if he had suffered a lot. However, this was not important. They quickly forgot about this matter. Zhou Xuanji deactivated the Emperor's Way Thousand-Hand Sword Buddha's sword will mode and landed on the mountain peak. He sat down cross-legged and quietly comprehended. The Emperor's Way Thousand-Hand Sword Buddha was broad and profound. The principles it contained were all helpful to his sword Tao. Although the others were excited and curious, they did not dare to disturb them. The moon set and the sun rose. Just as the sun rose, Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes and took out the ancient god sword. It had been 3 years since he obtained the ancient god's sword when he broke through to the spirit refinement realm. Now it was time to awaken the soul of another great being. Chapter 281. Zhou Xuanji came into the forest, away from the others. The reason why he avoided the others was not to avoid arousing suspicion, but to leave a surprise for them. Just the thought of using it when he encountered trouble in the future was enough to make him happy. He walked to a large tree and took out the ancient god's sword. The method to awaken the next powerful being's soul was very simple, which was to infuse spirit energy into it and use your mind to summon it. Soon, a black shadow emerged from the blade. Zhou Xuanji understood his background. Saber Monarch Dong Hai. 30,000 years ago, when he ascended and left the northern wilderness region, he accidentally died. His soul wandered in the void and was absorbed by the supreme legendary sword system. He did not know anything else about Saber Sovereign Dong Hai. He could sense that Saber Sovereign Dong Hai was no weaker than Emperor Hanlin. Of course, this was only in terms of the strength of the remnant souls. He immediately infused Saber Monarch Dong Hai's soul energy into his body, causing his aura to skyrocket. It was the same as when he used Emperor Hanlin's soul to possess his body. However, his current cultivation level was far higher than before. He felt that he could already challenge Great Tribulation loose immortals. The weakest Great Tribulation loose immortal. He was still no match for an existence like Jihuang Demon Lord. After a simple test, he put away the ancient god's sword and returned to the top of the mountain. Xian Xianghua glanced at him and did not say anything. Jiang Shui was still learning divination from Daoya Old Man and did not notice Zhou Xuanji's abnormality. 1 month later. Xian Xianghua left without saying a word. She only returned after 7 days. She claimed that she had gathered the 36 devil chiefs of the Tanhua sect and arranged for them to settle on a mountain that was thousands of meters tall. Zhou Xuanji had no objections to this. Ning Zifeng, on the other hand, was very curious. After asking for Xian Xianghua's opinion, he went to find the 36 devil leaders for a spar and returned empty-handed. The next day, Ning Zifeng and Lin Chang'e went together, but they were still defeated. The two of them were completely intoxicated. Every few days, they would go to the 36 devil leaders. At the top of the mountain, the 36 demon chiefs of the Tanhua sect sat cross-legged and cultivated. There were both males and females, and all of them had powerful cultivations. 8 of them were female cultivators. There were 10 devil generals who had reached the Mahayana stage. It was no wonder that Ning Zifeng and Lin Chang'e were no match for such a lineup. AMO leader opened his eyes and said, "Will those 2 brats come again?" Hearing this, the other 35 devil leaders all opened their eyes. Their expressions were strange. When Ning Zifeng first came to challenge them, they were disdainful. Even with Lin Chang'e's help, they would not be able to defeat their combined forces. But if this continued, how could they cultivate in peace? Zhou Xuanji might be our sect lord in the future. Everyone, please bear with it. An elder said. His name was Qin Zheng, the number 1 devil chief. He and the Thousand Hands devil Qin gang were blood brothers. It had been 3,000 years since the 36 demon leaders had gathered together. Ever since Xian Xianghua was defeated by Yang Di, the 36 chiefs had disappeared and left the Tanhua sect. Everyone thought that most of them were dead. He didn't expect them to still be alive and cultivating wholeheartedly. Qin Zheng's words caused the demon leaders to turn their attention to Zhou Xuanji. I heard that Zhou Xuanji is extremely talented. Even without the Tianxia map, he has the potential to become the top cultivator in the world. No wonder the sect lord is so interested in him. However, if he wants to establish his own sect, how will his sect interact with the Tanhua sect? It should be fusion, right? No, Tanhua sect cannot be absorbed by other forces. Yeah, the name of the Tanhua sect cannot be changed. This is our belief. The demon leaders discussed among themselves. Although they admired Zhou Xuanji, they were afraid that the Tanhua sect would change its name. At this moment, Xian Xianghua suddenly appeared among them, which shocked them so much that they knelt down immediately. "Greetings, Sect Lord," they said at the same time. Their voices were filled with respect. Xian Xianghua glanced at them and asked, "Have you rescued Qin Gang?" Thousand Hands Devil Qin Gang was a sharp blade for the Tanhua sect. Other than his cultivation and power, his ability to gather information was also very important to the Tanhua sect. Qin Jing replied, "Thank you for your concern, Sect Lord. I have already arranged for him to gather the Tanhua sect's disciples. If not for Zhou Xuanji killing Huangquan Drake King, how could they have saved Qin Gang so easily?" So, Qin Jing felt a tinge of gratitude toward Zhou Xuanji. After all, Qin Gang had said many good things about Zhou Xuanji to him. About the Duantian Cliff, do you think the Tanhua sect should go?" Xian Xianghua asked, changing the topic. Yang Di had invited everyone in the world to gather, but the Tanhua sect was in an awkward situation where everyone was their enemy. If they went, there would be a lot of trouble. A female demon leader licked her lips and laughed sinisterly. "This is a good opportunity for the Tanhua sect to recover. Let's not go and focus on developing the Tanhua sect. Moreover, I'm afraid the Duantian Cliff banquet is not that simple." Everyone in the world wanted Yang Di to be the ruler of the human race. With just one order, everyone in the world would submit to him. Why did they need to beat around the bush? The Duantian Cliff banquet might be a trap. The other sanctums, empires, and sects could guess it too. But who would dare to reject Yang Di? Xian Xianghua nodded and said, "Have you completed the mission that I gave you?" Although she was rebellious, she understood the current situation. The Tanhua sect was no longer what it used to be. It was no longer the overlord of the evil path. Qin Jing replied, "Soon. My disciple will bring him here personally." While the Tanhua sect was discussing the Duantian Cliff banquet, Skyfall was there too. Zhou Xuanji gathered everyone at the top of the mountain, including the second-generation disciples. In the following period of time, no matter what happens, we must not leave Skyfall. We will act after I break through to the great realization stage. Zhou Xuanji placed his hands on his legs and said softly. His words were clearly heard by everyone. The little black snake flicked its forked tongue and asked, "Master, if you break through to the great realization stage, do you have the confidence to fight against Yang Di?" The others were also looking forward to it. Zhou Xuanji had always had the ability to fight those with higher cultivation levels. He could kill Huangquan Drake King with spirit refinement cultivation. When he broke through to the great realization stage, he would only have one opponent left. "I have never seen Yang Di before, but I have the confidence to defeat Jihuang Demon Lord," Zhou Xuanji said conservatively. The intimidating spirit legendary sword was much more powerful than the heavenly soul legendary sword. Together with world reincarnation and great realization cultivation, he had the confidence to defeat Jihuang Demon Lord. What was worth mentioning was that Jihuang Demon Lord had disappeared without a trace. It was as if he was really scared out of his wits by Yang Di. There was no news of him at all. A disciple asked carefully, "Will Yang Di really become our enemy?" "I heard from my elders that Yang Di is very diligent in cultivation and does not care much about worldly conflicts." Chongming Demon Monarch glared at him and cursed, "He wants to be the ruler of the world, not the ruler of the human race. Do you understand?" Everyone would change. Su Yang changed the topic and asked, "Grand Teacher, Zhang Quanglan said that he has news to report to you. Do you want to see him?" Zhang Quanglan was still a prisoner. Every few months, his spirit energy would be drained dry by Zhou Xuanji. As time went by, his heart began to waver. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 282. Bring him up. Zhou Xuanji nodded. After receiving the order, Su Yang quickly descended the mountain. After that, Zhou Xuanji asked every second-generation disciple to report their cultivation progress. These second-generation disciples were all geniuses and had their own gains. None of them had stage fright and were instead looking forward to the patriarch's praise. Jiang Shui, Daoya Old Man, Huang Lianxin, Xiao Jinghong, Lin Changge, and the others sat behind Zhou Xuanji and watched silently. They were all sitting cross-legged without any sense of distance. Finyu Dragon King and the 4 mountain guarding kings were also sitting nearby. They were conversing softly and were in a good mood. The disciples began to report their results one after another. If there was something that interested Zhou Xuanji, he would have them demonstrated on the spot. Up until now, the lowest cultivation level of the second-generation disciples had reached the enlightening realm. It seemed very low, but they were still young and had a bright future ahead of them. Half an hour later, Su Yang led Zhang Kuanglan up the mountain. The two sat to the side and didn't interrupt the reports of the second-generation disciples. The last person to report was naturally Su Yang. This brat was very crafty. He didn't say anything and immediately used the 36 Paths Jade Shao sword set. He was even more impressive than the other disciples. Zhou Xuanji looked at him thoughtfully. He was not attracted by his swordsmanship. Instead, he was thinking about which ancient powerhouse he was the reincarnation of. After he finished, Zhou Xuanji waved his hand, indicating that he could leave. Su Yang's face instantly sank when he saw this. Seeing this, the other disciples covered their mouths and giggled. Zhou Xuanji waved his right hand, and Zhang Kuanglan leapt over the disciples' heads and landed in front of him. This kid's cultivation, Zhang Kuanglan inwardly felt quite startled. Every time he saw Zhou Xuanji, he seemed to become stronger. It was too scary. He felt that if he continued to fight against Zhou Xuanji, he would never be able to make a comeback. Speak. Zhou Xuanji stared at him and said. At the age of 31, he had experienced countless slaughters. His every movement exuded an indescribable majesty. It was difficult for ordinary disciples to remain calm in front of him. He had already grown into an expert whose name shook the world. The Sword Emperor of this era. I'll tell you a shocking secret, and you'll stop torturing me. I hope you'll give the Haotian sect a chance in the future. Zhang Kuanglan knelt in front of Zhou Xuanji and said with gritted teeth. In the past few years, he had thought a lot. He felt that Zhou Xian had the opportunity to change the situation in the northern wilderness region, and it would be difficult for the Haotian sect to become his enemy. As such, he wanted to resolve the conflict between them. It depends on what kind of secret it is. Zhou Xuanji did not immediately agree. Zhang Kuanglan glanced at the other disciples, hinting to Zhou Xuanji that the second-generation disciples should leave. However, he was unmoved. Zhang Kuanglan sighed and began to reveal this shocking secret. Back then, the Haotian sect and the Tanhua sect dominated the demonic path and even suppressed the righteous path. If not for the hegemon Sword Emperor becoming a great emperor, they would not have fallen. What I want to say is why the hegemon Sword Emperor was able to become a great emperor. Why are there no more emperors in the world after him? He gritted his teeth at the mention of the hegemon Sword Emperor. The Haotian sect and the Tanhua sect were mortal enemies, but the hegemon Sword Emperor was also their common enemy. So there was only one way to become a great emperor, and that was to find Fate Emperor River. As long as one's cultivation was high enough and could withstand the cleansing of Fate Emperor River, they would be able to become a great emperor and become invincible. If a great emperor ascended to the upper realm, they would be able to dominate a region. After the hegemon Sword Emperor became a great emperor, he directly sealed Fate Emperor River. Very few people knew about this, and only the Tanhua sect and the Haotian sect had clues about Fate Emperor River. They did not tell anyone about this, but they could not break the seal either. Fate Emperor River? Where is it? Zhou Xuanji asked as he narrowed his eyes. The others all had different expressions. Most of the second-generation disciples felt quite shocked. They had never thought that the legendary hegemon Sword Emperor would be so vicious and selfish. His actions had destroyed the dreams of countless people in the future. He was simply despicable. In Sun Hill, Zhang Kuanglan said as he sighed. Zhang Kuanglan sighed. Everyone was moved by these words. Sun Hill. Wasn't that Yang Di's base? The little black snake called out. Could it be that Yang Di was so heaven-defying because of Fate Emperor River? I knew it. How could there be such a monstrous person in the world? He instinctively glanced at Zhou Xuanji and did not say anything else. In other words, if we want to find Fate Emperor River, we have to defeat Yang Di? How do we know that Yang Di has not become a great emperor? Zhou Xuanji asked. Yang Di could easily defeat the second in the world. Could it be that he had already become a great emperor? Zhang Guanglan shook his head and said, if he becomes a great emperor, it will definitely be earth-shattering, and everyone will know about it. Sunlight Emperor is temporarily unable to break the seal of the hegemon Sword Emperor, but if he becomes the ruler of the world, he will definitely absorb the vitality of the world to help himself become stronger. His cultivation method can absorb fate. This is also the reason why he could rise so quickly. His tone was complicated. Chapter 284. Beg for mercy 3 times, Grandpa. Hearing this, Jihuang Demon Lord's rage surged up. Powerful demonic chi flowed out of his body and turned into 9 black dragons that coiled around him. Each dragon was hundreds of meters long. They roared at Zhou Xuanji, and their might shook the heavens. Zhou Xuanji did not panic at all. He provoked Jihuang Demon Lord on purpose. With the World Fool Sword, Jihuang Demon Lord could hardly remain calm. Zhou Xuanji could only find an opening by making him mad. He was not at his peak state after all, and the injuries inflicted by Yang Di had not fully recovered. The 1,000-hand sword Buddha swung its 1,000 swords toward Jihuang Demon Lord. The 1,000 swords moved like afterimages, dazzling the onlookers. The domineering sword chi gathered together and rose like a golden crescent, but it was blocked by Jihuang Demon Lord's black shield. The 9 black dragons around Jihuang Demon Lord roared and swooped down. They tore apart the golden sword chi and charged toward Zhou Xuanji. The 1,000-hand sword Buddha did not dodge but swung its swords quickly. Heavenly lights. Thousands of suns, moons, and stars shot out like a meteor shower. It was extremely majestic. Boom! The 2 powerful forces clashed together and shook the entire space. It was like the beginning of the world. A boundless and powerful might ravaged the heavens and earth like the manifestation of the heavenly law, and all living beings shuddered in fear. The battle between the human and the demon could be sensed by all the demons within 10,000 miles. Countless demons looked up at the same time. This guy is the second in the world indeed. Zhou Xuanji cursed in his heart as he controlled the 1,000-hand sword Buddha to attack. Even though Jihuang Demon Lord was injured, he was still powerful. Compared to Huangquan Drake King, he was even more powerful. But he was not the same as before. Swoosh! 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 The legendary sword surrounded by dragon-shaped sword chi shot out. The sword chi was dozens of meters long, and to the 1,000-hand sword Buddha and Jihuang Demon Lord, they were like golden arrows. Jihuang Demon Lord slashed with his saber and sent the legendary swords flying away. Next, he spun around and appeared behind the 1,000-hand sword Buddha. He held his saber in a reverse grip and pierced it into the 1,000-hand sword Buddha's back. Brat, I will let you taste the true power of the demon sovereign. Jihuang Demon Lord shouted coldly. With a loud bang, a terrifying demonic aura burst forth from the long saber. It was like a nuclear explosion, directly blasting the 1,000-hand sword Buddha into countless sparks. A giant hole appeared in the sea of clouds below, as if the sky had been torn apart. This scene caused the spectators on Skyfall to tremble in fear. Was Zhou Xuanji going to lose? The power of the demon clan's supremacy? Do you know the power of the Sword Emperor? Zhou Xuanji's cold laughter came from the powerful light, followed by a world-shaking dragon roar. The 5-clawed golden dragon, which was thousands of feet long, was accompanied by countless golden stars. It crashed into Jihuang Demon Lord with an unstoppable force, causing him to fall from the clouds and crash to the ground. The 2 huge figures smashed into the mountains like meteors. The ground collapsed, the mountains shattered, and the trees were uprooted. Rows of dust soared into the sky. Zhou Xuanji returned to his original form, looking like a golden Buddha surrounded by heavenly lightning. He held the ancient god's sword and sky-extinguishing sword in his hands. Jihuang Demon Lord also returned to his normal size, holding a saber in one hand and a shield in the other. Looking at Zhou Xuanji, his eyes were so red that they looked purple. He hated Zhou Xuanji to the core. This brat was actually able to fight evenly with him. To him, this was an extraordinary humiliation. If Zhou Xuanji did not die, how could he have the face to be the second in the world? He raised his long saber high, his expression becoming ferocious. Boom! A black beam of light descended from the sky and landed on the long saber in his hand. Black lightning circled around the beam, and the heavens and earth changed color. The people from Skyfall and the 36 demon chiefs were all frightened. What is this? Such a horrifying aura. Is he going to use his full power? SSS, if this continues, can Zhou Xuanji hold on? This is the power of the second in the world. Great tribulation scattered immortal, so powerful, Jihuang Demon Lord's aura filled the entire heavens and earth. It rose steadily, which made them feel like they were facing the heavenly might. Far away, Dao Seeker stood on the white cloud and looked at the battle. He was shocked in his heart. How did this brat suddenly become so powerful? Could it be that he used the saint energy? No. It should be those swords. Facing the arrogant Jihuang Demon Lord, Zhou Xuanji was fearless. With the support of the sky-extinguishing sword and saber monarch Donghai, he still felt that he could put up a fight. Just in time. I'll show you how powerful world reincarnation is. He smiled, and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. This was the moment when Jihuang Demon Lord was at his weakest. Go to hell. Jihuang Demon Lord laughed furiously. He swung his right hand forward, and the black beam turned into a blade and slashed toward Zhou Xuanji. This slash was as though it was going to cut the heavens and earth in half. Zhou Xuanji neither defended nor dodged. He welcomed the slash calmly with a smile on his face. Just when the blade was about to touch his hair, the black beam exploded with a loud boom. A horrifying shockwave swept toward the opposite direction and sent Jihuang Demon Lord flying backward with blood spurting out of his mouth. His body smashed through mountains one after another. The ruins below collapsed again. Soil, rocks, and trees were all turned into ashes. Everything was like the end of the world. Everything was crushed into ashes, and the shockwave swept out in all directions, creating a gigantic crater on the ground that continued to expand. Zhou Xuanji's body swayed, and blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. Jihuang Demon Lord's cultivation was too powerful, and he was still injured. But compared to him, Jihuang Demon Lord was more severely injured. When everything calmed down, a horrifying crater with a diameter of a few hundred miles appeared on the ground. Dust curled up like smoke, and the air was filled with an oppressive aura. The demons at the edge of the crater trembled in fear. All of them looked as though they had seen a ghost. Such destructive power. Could an immortal god have descended into the mortal world? On the other side, Jihuang Demon Lord, who was covered in blood, lay in the collapsed mountain. He tried his best to climb up and stand up with difficulty. The black armor on his body was shattered, and the cloak on his back was burned. Blood covered his body, and one could vaguely see his white bones. He gritted his teeth and looked toward the horizon. Fear could be seen in his eyes. What was that just now? Waves of shock surged in his heart. He could not figure out what Zhou Xuanji had done. He slashed with all his might, but why was his attack reflected back? Could it be the Tianxia map? It must be. He opened his eyes wide. Jealousy, anger, and unwillingness intertwined in his eyes, forming a boundless rage. He swore to get the Tianxia map. Jihuang Demon Lord, who do you think will die now? Zhou Xuanji's voice came from above. He looked up and saw a blazing sun above his head. His body was golden and surrounded by lightning bolts. Dozens of legendary swords levitated and pointed at him. He squinted his eyes and said with gritted teeth, Zhou Xuanji, don't use the Tianxia map if you have the guts. Somehow, whenever he got close to Zhou Xuanji, he became agitated and could not maintain his rationality. You think I'm using the Tianxia map? Zhou Xuanji said with contempt. His expression made Jihuang Demon Lord furious again. Boom! Jihuang Demon Lord soared into the sky. Demonic energy came out from his palm and turned into a sharp claw that clawed at Zhou Xuanji. Before he could touch Zhou Xuanji, he was once again covered in blood from the impact and fell down. Smiley face, smiley face. Chapter 285. The summit of Skyfall was in complete silence. Everyone looked at the mirror of light created by Daoya Old Man, dumbfounded. In the mirror, Zhou Xuanji was high up like a god looking down at the mortal world, while Jihuang Demon Lord was in such a sorry state. He soared into the sky again and fell down again and again. Facing Zhou Xuanji, the world's second seemed so weak. They have a sense of unreality. It was like a dream. They knew that Zhou Xuanji had become more powerful, but they did not expect him to be so much more powerful. This brat, Daoya Old Man swallowed his saliva in disbelief. Jiang Shui snorted proudly, the world's second is going to have a new owner. The others also chimed in to express their excitement. On another summit, Xian Xianghua and the 36 demon leaders fell into silence. They felt even more surreal than Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Congjian, and the others. Especially Xian Xianghua. Although that guy is severely injured, he still has the power of a first tribulation scattered immortal, Xian Xianghua mumbled to herself with a complicated look in her beautiful eyes. She felt a little proud in her heart. Her foresight was so accurate. She had taken a liking to Zhou Xuanji before he grew up. If it were now, that brat would probably look down on her even more. She felt a little angry at the thought of this. Regardless of beauty, power, or influence, she felt that she was the best among all the women in the northern wilderness region. Why did this brat look down on her? The more she thought about it, the angrier she got. She swung her sleeves and sent Qin Jing flying away. Qin Jing slammed into a giant rock. He was stunned and looked at Xian Xianghua pitifully. The other demon leaders trembled in fear and kept quiet out of fear. On the other side, Jihuang Demon Lord had already fallen dozens of times. He did not have enough demonic energy. He panted in the ruins. His eyes were still filled with rage as he stared at Zhou Xuanji. His heart was filled with shock and indignation. Why? Why? He was the sovereign of the demon race, and yet he was forced to such a state by a human brat. Tianxia map. At this moment, he was almost possessed. His mind was filled with the Tianxia map. Jihuang Demon Lord, as the sovereign of the demon race, you have lived a glorious life. Don't be disappointed. Dying in my hands will not bring shame to you. In the future, I will surpass Yang Di and complete your unfinished dream. Zhou Xuanji looked down at him and said coldly. Speaking of which, Jihuang Demon Lord was rather pitiful. In the past, he was suppressed by Xian Xianghua. Now, he was suppressed by Sunlight Emperor. He had never become the number one in the world. His desire to be number one in the world was not any weaker than Xian Xianghua's. Zhou Xuanji, you think you've won? Jihuang Demon Lord roared furiously. He hated Zhou Xuanji's confident attitude the most. It made him feel disgusted and humiliated. Chapter 287. On the 10th day of Jihuang Demon Lord's death, the Shanghai Ziggurat released the top 100 of the Northern Wilderness again. The number one in the world, Sunlight Emperor, the Eternal Emperor, dominating both the past and the present. Second in the world, Zhou Xuanji, the current Sword Emperor, the owner of the Tianxia map. Third in the world, Jiang Wudi, has reversed yin and yang and mastered the Qilin Zither. Fourth in the world, Xian Xianghua, Tanhua in the human world, Azura in hell. Zhou Xuanji had officially become the world's second. No one doubted this. That was because he had used Jihuang Demon Lord as a stepping stone to his current position. His reputation had also reached its peak. As time passed, Zhou Xuanji would become a legend in the hearts of the northern wilderness region's humans and demons sooner or later, even a myth. The news also spread to the Sun Tomb. Sun Hill was located in the east of the northern wilderness region. It was surrounded by mountains and mist. There were many treasures and rare beasts hidden here. Because of Sunlight Emperor's fame, this place was also a pure land. In the bamboo forest, there was a stone pavilion. A man in luxurious golden robes was reading an ancient book while drinking tea. His expression was grave and stern. Between his brows was a flame diagram, a strange and divine steed. His entire temperament seemed extraordinary and refined. Together with the immortal mist around the stone pavilion, he was like an immortal hidden in the forest. He was the #1 expert in the world, Yang Di. Ascension is long, the prison is replaced, he muttered to himself, his brows slightly furrowed as he fell into deep thought. At this time, a boy in a dudu flew over. He rushed into the stone pavilion, knelt down, and said, "Great Emperor, the owner of the second in the world has changed." His face was full of surprise. However, he did not panic. No matter who was the second in the world, the first in the world would not change. "Oh? Xian Xianghua?" Sunlight Emperor asked in a low voice, his eyes still fixed on the book. "No, it's Zhou Xuanji," the boy replied. Sunlight Emperor slowly put down the ancient book in his hand. He relaxed his brows and asked curiously, "The 30-year-old heaven's favorite?" He had lived for thousands of years and thought that he was the most powerful genius, but compared to Zhou Xuanji, he seemed to be a little lacking. Of course, talent did not mean anything. He had absolute confidence that Zhou Xuanji could not catch up to him. "It's him. He killed Jihuang Demon Lord." The boy nodded. He was excited at the mention of this matter. He detested Jihuang Demon Lord. At that time, he didn't understand why Sunlight Emperor spared that guy's life. So be it. I hope that Zhou Xuanji has the guts to go to Duantian Cliff. This emperor wants to see how powerful the #1 genius is. Sunlight Emperor said with a chuckle. After that, he picked up the ancient book again. From his tone, it was obvious that he did not take Zhou Xuanji seriously. The boy cautiously asked, "Do you need me to kill him?" Even though he had confidence in Yang Di, Zhou Xuanji's talent was simply too outrageous. Moreover, he had the Tianxia map, so he had to be on guard. Sunlight Emperor did not take his eyes off Zhou Xuanji and said unhurriedly, "Don't worry about him. The ones who can be this emperor's opponents are the 10,000-year prince and Tian. As for Zhou Xuanji, I'll leave him for the next generation. If this emperor ascends, at least there will be someone who can withstand the northern wilderness region's fate." Emperor's emperor was already top in. From dynasty. He Emperor Zhou. Emperor Zhou and Yang and Emperor and Yang dynasty. Yang Zhou Emperor asked said in Zhou dynasty. Emperor Zhou. His tone was casual, but the boy named Fu Hao looked awkward. "Great Emperor, there is no news about the Son of Fate. He might not be born yet. As for Tian, he has already come to the northern wilderness region, but his whereabouts are mysterious. He might be trying to become more powerful. The 10,000-year prince has not been found yet. According to my conjecture, the 10,000-year prince has just been born, so he should not be powerful. He might even be weaker than Zhou Xuanji," Fu Hao replied. He scratched his head. At the mention of Zhou Xuanji, he could not help but let his imagination run wild. He thought of something and continued, "By the way, Dao Seeker has already hooked up with Zhou Xuanji. Apparently, he wants to assist Zhou Xuanji. Do we really not need to deal with him?" Sunlight Emperor glanced at him and said intently, "Fu Hao, you seem to want me to become enemies with everyone in the world." Fu Hao heard him and was covered in cold sweat. He did not dare to speak anymore. At Skyfall, Lin Chang'e was preparing to head to Duantian Cliff. The group was reminding him to be careful. If you encounter danger, try your best to avoid it. Zhou Xuanji patted Lin Chunga's shoulder and said. He was now the world's second and had the Tianxia map. He was worried that someone would capture Lin Chunga to threaten him. Lin Chunga nodded and chuckled, "Don't worry. I'm at the great realization stage, after all. There are not many who can defeat me. Even if I can't defeat them, I can still escape." The others said a few words before Lin Chunga left on his sword. Daoya Old Man divined for Lin Chunga and said with a smile, "Luckily, this brat is lucky. He will not die at Duantian Cliff." Hearing his divination, the group was relieved. After that, Zhou Xuanji asked Daoya Old Man to concoct potions for him. He planned to speed up his cultivation. He wanted to break through to the great realization stage as soon as possible. The reason why he did not absorb others' cultivation to become more powerful was simple. He was not at the great realization stage, so it would not be of much help to him. There were not many great realization cultivators in the northern wilderness region. After the war between the two races, there were even fewer. Those who were still alive were the pillars of their respective factions. Zhou Xuanji took out the resources he got from Jihuang Demon Lord and Huangquan Drake King and asked Daoya Old Man to concoct potions. The others continued to cultivate. Jiang Shui stood beside Zhou Xuanji and asked, "Xuanji, have you thought about the name of your sect?" This matter had been delayed for many years. Now that the world's heroes had gathered, they could not keep saying that they were from Skyfall. "I've thought about many things, such as the Divine Sword Way, 10,000 Sword Sect, Skyfall Sword Sect, Emperor Sword Court, and so on. Let me think about it," Zhou Xuanji said with a headache. It was too difficult to choose a name that was awe-inspiring and meaningful. Jiang Shui suggested, "I've decided that you can add Xuanji to your sect's name because you are the best name." After that, she turned and left, not bothering him. Add my own name? Xuanji Sword Sect? Xuanji Divine Sword Way? What a chinibu. Zhou Xuanji shuddered and did not think too much about it. The most important thing now was to break through to the great realization stage. Just as he was busy cultivating, Xian Xianghua and the 36 demon leaders were secretly plotting. "Sect Lord, will it really work?" Qin Jing asked with a frown. The other demon leaders were also very nervous. Xian Xianghua said calmly, "I have the final say. Go and prepare. I must see results within 3 years." "Yes." The 36 demon leaders cried out in unison. All of them turned into black beams of light and flew in different directions. Xian Xianghua turned to look toward the south. Her eyes were filled with worry. Time passed. 2 months had passed. The world's heroes gathered at Duantian Cliff. Every human city was discussing this. They were all curious about what Yang Di was going to do. Soon, a shocking piece of news shook the entire northern wilderness region. Yang Di was going to establish an empire to become a great fate empire and lead the human race's fate. After that, Daoya Old Man took out a drop of his essence blood and began casting the spell. "What venomous oath do you want him to make? Let him repeat it." Daoya Old Man said to Zhou Xuanji. Everyone looked at him with curiosity. Even Xian Xianghua was the same. She thought to herself, "This brat has learned a lot." Zhou Xuanji muttered to himself. Lu Tiange swallowed his saliva and pretended to be calm. "I respect Zhou Xuanji as my father. If I dare to harm Zhou Xuanji or any human or demon related to him, I will die a horrible death." If I lie to Zhou Xuanji, I will be struck by lightning. Whatever Zhou Xuanji asks me to do, I will do it because he's my father." After Zhou Xuanji finished speaking, the summit fell into silence. Everyone was trying to hold in their laughter. Lu Tiange's face was red with anger, and his eyes were filled with fury. This was a complete humiliation to him. This was intolerable. He gritted his teeth and said, "Zhou Xuanji, are you really going to bully me?" Seeing this, Zhou Xuanji took out the swine-culling sword and walked up to him. He pierced the sword into his abdomen and began absorbing his spirit energy. Lu Tiange's expression changed drastically. He wanted to resist, but he could not. Seems like this guy has a backbone. Huang Lianxin covered her mouth and laughed. No one stopped Zhou Xuanji. Lu Tiange was too arrogant just now. A while later. "Wait! Stop!" Lu Tiange cried out suddenly, and Zhou Xuanji stopped too. His eyes turned sharp. He took a deep breath and said, "Zhou Xuanji, I'm Emperor Dongxing, the descendant of an immortal." Zhou Xuanji continued to activate world internalization. Lu Tiange was anxious. "Can't you let me finish what I want to say? I respect Zhou Xuanji as my father. If I dare to harm Zhou Xuanji or any human or demon related to him, I will die a horrible death. If I lie to Zhou Xuanji, I will be struck by lightning." The fourth update. I have already updated all the information about the legendary swords in the forum. Those who want to know more can take a look. The attributes of the legendary swords will be updated regularly. There will also be voting for various storyline characters. It's worth your participation. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Calm. Chapter 291. After Lu Tiange swore, Daoya Old Man took his essence blood. He then asked for a drop of Zhou Xuanji's essence blood and combined them. Essence blood referred to fresh blood and essence qi. The essence blood of different humans or demons was different. In the cultivation world, it could be used as an identity. For example, enchanted artifacts and enchanted treasures required essence blood to recognize their owners. Daoya Old Man waved his right hand, and the essence blood in his hand dissipated into the heavens and earth. It was invisible and soundless. "That's it?" Zhou Xuanji asked with a frown. Why did he feel like a fraud? Daoya Old Man nodded and said proudly, "Of course. This divine ability is not simple. In the entire northern wilderness region, there are less than 5 people who know this divine ability." Xian Xianghua asked curiously, "You and Xuanhe received an ancient legacy. Which powerhouse's legacy is it?" A long time ago, Daoya Old Man and Xuanhe Divine Monk were ordinary. After they received the legacy of an ancient powerhouse, they were reborn. "Why should I tell you?" Daoya Old Man said arrogantly. He used to be extremely afraid of Xian Xianghua. But now, he was not afraid. "If you want to marry my grand disciple, you must support me well first." Xian Xianghua's eyes turned cold, and a murderous aura emanated from her. He was so frightened that he quickly hid behind Zhou Xuanji. Lu Tiange sat on the ground in despair. Scenes of the past flashed before his eyes. If this were to spread to the Dongxing Empire, would he still have the face to be the emperor? Suddenly, he regretted giving in to her. But he really did not want to die like this. Once he died, he would have nothing left. Zhou Xuanji sat on the ground and crossed his arms in front of his chest. "Tell me, which sea region are you from?" he said softly. He heard from Ning Zifeng that the ocean was much bigger than the continent. The Chaos Tide Sea was only a small map. Even so, there were great tribulations scattered immortals, and more than one of them. He had always suspected that there were many powerful cultivators overseas, and they might be more powerful than the northern wilderness region. If so, why did they not attack the northern wilderness region? There must be a lot of unknown secrets behind this. Lu Tiange's expression changed, but he decided to bear with it. After all, this was the northern wilderness region, and no one knew him. After he returned, he could remove the divine ability and deny everything. Therefore, he told them about his background. It turned out that there were 108 sea regions in the ocean, with the northern wilderness region as the center. There was a powerful barrier between these sea regions and the northern wilderness region, and one could only enter and exit through the illusory void hole. The void was flowing, located in the sea water, unable to be seen with the naked eye. From ancient times until now, no one could calculate how many voids there were. A long time ago, the empires of the various sea regions had started planning to invade the northern wilderness region and occupy the land resources. However, the void was unstable, and they could not invade on a large scale. Moreover, the sanctums of the northern wilderness region were guarding the borders of the sea regions, so the sea region empires could not invade the northern wilderness region. In the past, there were many heroes and geniuses in the northern wilderness region. Ever since the hegemon sword emperor ascended, the northern wilderness region had fallen into desolation. Tens of thousands of years ago, there were several people like Sunlight Emperor in every era, even in the double digits. It was said that the northern wilderness region was originally much larger, but because of the battles between the strong, many lands were sunk into the sea. 500 years ago, someone from the Dongxing Empire accidentally entered the northern wilderness region. That person was loyal and devoted, and since then, he had been gathering information for the Dongxing Empire. Lu Tiange thought that the northern wilderness region had fallen into desolation, so he searched for the void and entered it. But reality gave him a heavy blow. He cursed in his heart. It's all that guy's fault. How did he gather information? TSK. This guy's mood is the same as mine. He thought that he could do whatever he wanted after coming to the northern wilderness region, but... Haha. Ning Zifeng laughed mercilessly, which made Lu Tiange's veins bulge on his forehead. We are all from the sea region. Why make things difficult for each other? Zhou Xuanji asked a few more questions, and Lu Tiange answered them honestly. There were empires in every sea region, which meant that there were hundreds of empires overseas. However, the population of these empires was far less than the empires in the northern wilderness region. After he finished asking, he asked Lu Tiange to find a place to stay at the waist of the mountain. Zhou Xuanji asked Lin Changge and Ning Zifeng to keep a close eye on him. This person was a great tribulation scattered immortal after all, and he had many tricks up his sleeves. Seems like this world is more exciting than we imagined, Daoya old man sighed in amazement. After hearing Lu Tiange's words, he suddenly felt that the northern wilderness region was very small. A bunch of natives from overseas dares to encroach on the northern wilderness region? What a fool's dream. Xian Xianghua snorted coldly. The others sighed in amazement as well. Zhou Xuanji was thinking about another question. Who set up the barrier around the northern wilderness region? After Lu Tiange joined Skyfall, he ended up as Zhang Quanglan. Every few days, Zhou Xuanji would find him and absorb all the spirit energy in his body. At first, he was furious because he thought that Zhou Xuanji treated him like a pig or a dog. 3 months later, Lu Tiange was numb, and his body became noticeably thinner. During this period, he saw Zhang Quanglan. The two met, and their gazes met. Their silence was filled with sorrow. With the great tribulation scattered immortal providing him with endless spirit energy, Zhou Xuanji was getting closer and closer to the great realization stage. Another 4 months passed, and he finally had an opportunity to break through. He left Skyfall and went to undergo the tribulation 100 miles away. He took out the thunderclap sword and was prepared to absorb the power of heavenly lightning. He brought Lu Tiange along on purpose so that the latter could watch from the side. Boom, thunderclouds gathered, and a horrifying heavenly might spread across the wasteland. There were no trees within a radius of a few thousand meters, only weeds. Under the cover of the thunderclouds, the world was dark and looked extremely bleak. Lu Tiange was 100 meters away from Zhou Xuanji. Lu Tiange was completely different from half a year ago. He was no longer as arrogant as before. He looked at Zhou Xuanji with a complicated expression and cursed in his heart. To him, Zhou Xuanji was provoking him on purpose. Zhou Xuanji was absorbing his spirit energy to obtain an opportunity to break through, and he had to watch from the side. It was an absolute humiliation. Zhou Xuanji sat down with the thunderclap sword hovering above his head. He activated golden invincibility, and strands of heavenly lightning coiled around him like dragons and snakes. An extremely powerful aura exploded from his body, causing the ground to tremble slightly. At the same time, heavenly lightning appeared in the thunderclouds like numerous lightning dragons tumbling in the sea of clouds. Roar! A world-shaking roar came from the sky. Lu Tiange looked up, and in the next second, he opened his eyes wide. A gigantic qilin had emerged from the thunderclouds. It was formed by interweaving heavenly lightning, and it was as huge as a mountain. Its eyes were beaming with a powerful radiance as it looked down at the ground like a supreme ruler. Qilin Divine Tribulation. How can it be? This is a heavenly tribulation that only great tribulations scattered immortals can encounter. Lu Tiange cried out in shock. He had seen a powerhouse encountering this tribulation before. The world-destroying scene was still fresh in his memory. He immediately distanced himself from Zhou Xuanji to avoid being accidentally injured by the heavenly tribulation. Qilin Divine Tribulation? Such a good name. But it's nothing before my legendary sword. Zhou Xuanji laughed softly. Just when he spoke, bolts of heavenly lightning struck down crazily. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 292. An hour later. Lu Tiange swallowed his saliva and tried to stay calm, but his body couldn't stop trembling. What did he see? When Zhou Xuanji was breaking through to the great realization stage, he had encountered the scattered immortal tribulation, and he had passed the tribulation unscathed with a single sword. How could this be? That was the Qilin Sage tribulation. How could that sword block it? Moreover, if he was not mistaken, the sword seemed to have absorbed the lightning. The wasteland was filled with charred smoke, and there were potholes everywhere, formed by the heavenly lightning. Zhou Xuanji levitated in midair. His spirit energy exploded out, forming a tornado around him with a powerful aura. He had already put away the thunderclap sword. After absorbing the Qilin Divine Tribulation, the thunderclap sword would level up again. His cultivation base had already reached Mahayana level 1. Sword owner has reached the Mahayana realm. Gacha begins. Ding. Congratulations, sword owner has obtained Amethyst, Ghost Weep Sword, Sealing Dream Sword Formation. The sword spirit's voice resounded in Zhou Xuanji's mind. Next, 3 lines of words appeared before his eyes. Sword name, Ghost Weep Sword Grade, Amethyst. Description: a sword that makes thousands of ghosts wail in the netherworld. It possesses an extremely strong murderous aura that can easily make people lose their rationality. Zhou Xuanji did not take out the Ghost Weep sword but looked at Lu Tiange. Facing his gaze, Lu Tiange hurriedly lowered his head in fear. Seeing Zhou Xuanji's domineering tribulation, he only felt fear in his heart. You can leave. Zhou Xuanji said slowly. After breaking through to the great realization stage, he no longer needed Lu Tiange. Lu Tiange was stunned. He couldn't believe his ears. He cautiously asked, "Where are we going?" Could it be? His heart began to beat faster. You can go wherever you want. Zhou Xuanji replied calmly. It was not suitable to leave Lu Tiange in Skyfall. His existence was a threat to everyone else. It was impossible for him to be completely convinced. Are you really going to let me go like this? Lu Tiange asked in surprise. He had a surreal feeling. He had thought that it would take decades or even centuries for him to have a chance to escape. Zhou Xuanji smiled mysteriously. No matter where you go, we will meet again one day. Lu Tiange shuddered in fear and immediately flew away. After he left, Zhou Xuanji took out Heavenly Retribution Martial Song. Intimidating Spirit Legendary Sword. This was the first time he had taken out this sword. Ever since he obtained this sword, he had been looking forward to it. After all, this was the strongest sword he had so far. A crystal broadsword appeared in his hand. The sword was crystal blue in color, and its blade was sharp. There were intricate patterns on it that looked like the scales of a divine dragon or a qilin. It looked very mystical, and it was obvious that it was not an ordinary sword. With heavenly retribution martial song in his hand, Zhou Xuanji felt a coolness seep into his palm. He subconsciously poured his spirit energy into the heavenly retribution martial song. Boom! The ground beneath his feet collapsed, and a horrifying aura exploded out. With Zhou Xuanji at the center, a visible gale swept out in all directions. Zhou Xuanji quickly cut off his spirit energy, and cold sweat covered his forehead. So powerful! He muttered to himself, his eyes filled with surprise. After breaking through to the Mahayana realm, his spiritual energy had leaped in quality and quantity, becoming more than 10 times stronger than before. Just now, when he had used heavenly retribution Wu Chu's power, he had felt as if the entire world would be destroyed by him. This feeling of strength was unprecedented, and it caused him to shudder with fear. As expected of the intimidating spirit legendary sword. Too powerful. Suddenly, a bold idea came to his mind. Who would win the battle between him and Yang Di? He shook his head and stopped thinking about it. Before Yang Di offended him, he would not seek trouble with him. His priority was to continue cultivating. He wanted to be the top cultivator in the next World Millennium Duel. From then on, he would continue to be the top cultivator, surpassing his predecessors and reaching the pinnacle of history. Back at the top of Skyfall, everyone gathered around him. After knowing that Zhou Xuanji had successfully broken through, they were all very happy. The more powerful Zhou Xuanji was, the safer they would be. No one objected to Lu Qingge's departure. Master, do you have the confidence to defeat Yang Di now? Zhao Congjian asked with great excitement. Previously, Zhou Xuanji had been emphasizing on breaking through to the great realization stage as soon as possible, and they were all looking forward to it. Zhou Xuanji smiled mysteriously and said, I have never seen Yang Di before, so I don't know how powerful he is. However, I feel that no one in the world can kill me. Before breaking through, he could already defeat First Tribulation's scattered immortals. Now that he had broken through and obtained a legendary sword of a higher grade, how could he not be more powerful? Yang Di's cultivation might have already reached Third Tribulation's scattered immortal. In the current world, only he has reached that level, Xian Xianghua said. She was a Second Tribulation scattered immortal. Great Tribulation scattered immortals were divided into 9 tribulations. Normally, a Second Tribulation scattered immortal could dominate the world. Zhou Xuanji said with a smile, no matter how powerful he is, we just need to cultivate hard. In a few years, we should let the second-generation disciples go out to train. Just training hard was not enough. They needed actual combat experience. Chapter 295. Lin Chang'e suggested that Meng Tianlang be a sword slave, and everyone agreed. Compared to Zhou Xuanji, this 10,000-year prince did not seem as powerful as the legends made him out to be. It's fine to be a sword slave. According to my understanding, the Sword Emperor personally supports sword slaves, and they are no different from disciples. The only difference is their status. Han Daozi stroked his beard and smiled. His gaze towards Zhou Xuanji contained a hint of curiosity. To be honest, he had always been amazed by Zhou Xuanji's talent. Before discovering Meng Tianlang, he had thought that Zhou Xuanji was the 10,000-year prince. Even if he wasn't, he should be a child of providence. Otherwise, how could he be so heaven-defying? I'm supposed to be a slave. I don't dare to dream of becoming a disciple. Meng Tianlang said seriously. Back then, he was defeated by Zhou Xuanji and promised to be Zhou Xuanji's slave. With his personality, how could he shamelessly become Zhou Xuanji's personal disciple? Zhou Xuanji nodded and said, from today onwards, you will stay at Skyfall. He looked at Han Daozi and asked, what about you? Are you willing to stay and become an elder of the sect? Han Daozi was a first tribulation itinerant immortal, and he had even given him a 10,000-year prince. He naturally had to rope him in. Hearing this, Han Daozi secretly glanced at Xian Xianghua and said with a smile, "Thank you, Sword Emperor, for your kindness. I have cultivated all my life, and I have ambitions. I want to do something for the human race. Recently, Sunlight Emperor wants to establish the Great Fate Empire, and I want to investigate it. I won't stay and waste the spiritual chi of the tea. Of course, when you establish your sect, I will definitely come. In the future, if the sect has any difficulties and needs my help, I will definitely not decline." With that, he stood up, bowed to everyone, turned around, and flew towards the horizon, disappearing without a trace in the blink of an eye. Chongming Demon Monarch muttered, "That sounds nice, but he didn't even leave a way to contact me. I won't even be able to find him for help in the future." Meng Tianlang's face was full of awkwardness and he did not know what to say. He also found it strange. Why was his ancestor in such a hurry? Daoya Old Man laughed and said, "It's all because of our sect master Xian. Back then, your demonic aura was overflowing, and you almost killed him." Everyone's gaze shifted to Xian Xianghua, who had a calm expression. Zhou Xuanji looked at Meng Tianlang and asked, "How's your talent in the way of the sword?" He was most proficient in sword Dao. The other spells could only be taught by Daoya Old Man. Meng Tianlang scratched his head. "It should be alright. Everyone in the Great Zhou Barracks practices the sword, but they're not as powerful as pure sword cultivators." He did not use a sword, but it did not mean that he did not like it or that it was not suitable for him. It was just that the sword Dao had declined in the past. Ever since Zhou Xuanji rose to power, there were more and more sword cultivators in the various empires, especially in Great Zhou. Almost all the young cultivators practiced the sword. When Zhou Xuanji became #1 in the world, he might usher in a golden age of the way of the sword. Have a good rest. I will personally teach you tomorrow and see if you are suitable for sword training. Zhou Xuanji nodded and asked Xiao Jinghong to bring him to where the second-generation disciples lived. It was also a good opportunity for this pair of gay friends to be alone. After the two left, Xian Xianghua clicked her tongue in wonder and said, "I didn't expect the 10,000-year prince to be someone else. However, it will take some time and effort to awaken him." Lin Chunga said disdainfully, "What 10,000-year prince? In terms of swordsmanship, his talent is far below mine." The appearance of the 10,000-year prince made him feel an inexplicable sense of danger. Not only him, but Ning Zifeng also felt the same. Their previous guess was right. More and more geniuses would appear in the future, and their positions would be shaken. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and laughed. He did not mind their thoughts. "Oh, by the way, I plan to go out tomorrow. It might be a few years, or it might be decades before I come back. You are fully grown anyway, and you don't need my protection anymore. If you stay in Skyfall, you won't marry me. You have to wait until you marry Jiang Shui before you marry me." "It's such a waste of time," Xian Xianghua said as she stared at Zhou Xuanji. After living for so long, she finally fell in love with someone, but he had someone else in his heart. Just thinking about it made her angry. "Where are you going?" Zhou Xuanji asked. Xian Xianghua had mostly recovered from her injuries, but she was not fully recovered, so he was a little worried. To become more powerful, of course. Xian Xianghua left after saying this. Next, she sent a telepathic message to Zhou Xuanji and reminded him, "Don't forget to cultivate the Celestial Devil Rebirth technique. It can save your life." Zhou Xuanji felt a warmth in his heart. This old demonic woman was quite cute sometimes. After that, the group dispersed to rest. Zhou Xuanji and Jiang Shui returned to the house. Jiang Shui poured tea for him as she asked, "Xuanji, do you think I have some kind of identity? When I awaken, I will soar into the sky." As she spoke, she became excited. It was as though she was a 10,000-year prince. Zhou Xuanji lay on the bed and snorted, "Yes. I didn't tell you. I already found out when you were very young. Jiang Shui opened her beautiful eyes wide and asked in surprise, "Really?" Zhou Xuanji flipped over and changed into a more comfortable position. "Yes. You are the woman of the future Sword Emperor. You are below one and above tens of thousands," he said with a solemn and sacred tone. Jiang Shui heard him and immediately pounced at him with bared fangs. "What? You want me to be below you?" To the right of one and above tens of thousands." The next morning, Zhou Xuanji got up and left the house. He asked the little black snake to call Meng Tianlang up. He took out the swine-culling sword and waited by the cliff. After a while, Meng Tianlang and the little black snake flew to the top of the mountain. Without a word, Zhou Xuanji activated Heavenly Lights, Ancestor Dragon Sword, and Emperor's Way Thousand Hands Sword Buddha. Meng Tianlang was fascinated by them. As expected, he decided to practice the sword. He first taught Meng Tianlang the 36 Paths Jade Shao sword. This guy had a photographic memory. He memorized all the sword moves after seeing it once. However, it took him 2 hours to completely practice the 36 Paths Jade Shao sword. The others left the house one after another. Daoya old man stared at Meng Tianlang and began to think about how to awaken this guy. In the next half a month, Meng Tianlang mastered 36 Paths Jade Shao sword. Every move he made was like a swordsman who had cultivated for decades. This time, Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Congjian, Beishao Wangjian, and the others could no longer sit still. They all began to practice the sword. Daoya old man came to a conclusion. This guy had already awakened. Without any warning. Ever since he started practicing the sword, his talent was fully displayed. Even his internalization of qi was much faster than before. Even he himself was confused. Before this, he did not believe that he was the 10,000-year prince. But now, he believed. And he was a little flustered. Because Ning Zifeng and Lin Chunga often found trouble with him. They claimed that they were sparring with each other, but they were actually beating him up. And so, he was struck down by Lin Chunga's scabbard again. "Kid, you have improved again. Not bad. You are more powerful than all of us." Lin Chunga smiled with squinted eyes, which made Meng Tianlang gnash his teeth. Ning Zifeng also smiled mockingly. Before Meng Tianlang grew up, he must bully him, or else there would be no more chances in the future. Chapter 296. The days became peaceful again. Zhou Xuanji taught the Soul Eater / to Meng Tianlang again and left the matter to himself. Meng Tianlang followed Lin Chunga and Ning Zifeng to cultivate. Although the two of them were a little jealous, they quickly regained their composure, and their bullying of Meng Tianlang gradually decreased. The relationship between the three became better and better. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, 4 years had passed. Zhou Xuanji was already 36 years old, but his cultivation was still at Great Realization Level 1. On the other hand, he managed to cultivate the first level of the Celestial Devil Rebirth technique and obtained a chance to be reborn. In these 4 years, he'd obtained 7 divine swords, and the highest grade was only at the amethyst rank. It was clear that the heavenly retribution martial punishment had used up all of his luck. The 7 divine swords were the evil purple sword, the torrential sword, the scorching sun sword, the boundless western heaven sword, the flying south sword, the great Kuei sword, and the Zhuyan sword. What was worth mentioning was that Meng Tianlang had already reached leaving Aperture Realm, and he had already mastered the Soul Eater / to major accomplishment. He was currently learning the sky-dominating divine sword. This guy didn't like fancy sword techniques. He liked the domineering sword techniques that could defeat everything with brute force. After all, he had been on the battlefield for a long time and liked the aura of invincibility. In just 4 short years, he had mastered the sky-dominating divine sword. His talent was truly terrifying. He was much stronger than Lin Chunga and Ning Zifeng. Fortunately, he was not arrogant and willful. He could still remain humble and polite in front of others. Apart from Xiao Jinghong, he fought with Chongming Demon Monarch and the 4 mountain guarding kings. As they were all body cultivators, they could often engage in physical combat. On this day, Zhou Xuanji gathered Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Zongjian, and the others. He was going to select a group of second-generation disciples to go down the mountain to gain experience. Right at this moment, the sound of footsteps appeared behind them. Everyone turned their heads and saw a white-haired man standing at the edge of the cliff. He wore a tattered purple Daoist robe, his face expressionless and his eyes cold. "Who are you?" Lin Chang'e asked in a deep voice. The other party had ascended the mountain without a sound, and he had not noticed it at all. The others also looked as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Over the years, cultivators and demons would occasionally sneak into Skyfall to steal the Tianxia map, but they were all chased away. Zhou Xuanji frowned deeply. He could not see through the spirit energy in this person's body. He had always thought that he could see through all living beings in the world by relying on the world Buddha art. Could it be that this person's cultivation far surpassed his, or that he had a special identity? "Zhou Xuanji, come with me, or else I will kill them." The white-haired man stared at Zhou Xuanji and said faintly. Ning Zifeng looked at him thoughtfully. He suddenly thought of something and exclaimed, "You are heaven." "Impossible. Aren't you overseas? Why would it appear in the northern wilderness region?" Heavens! Everyone was greatly shocked. This was an existence even more terrifying than the 10,000-year princes. In the past, even the hegemon Sword Emperor and the ancient Diablo King could not do anything to him. "Tian is just my identity. I have my name. My name is Xianyuan Zhou." The white-haired man glanced at Ning Zifeng and said softly. Just as he spoke, his eyes narrowed. Apart from Zhou Xuanji, everyone else was sent flying by a formless wind. Zhou Xuanji took out the sky-extinguishing sword, an ancient god's sword, and said in a low voice, "You and I will fight in the distance." He didn't expect heaven to find him so soon. However, he had already predicted today's battle. After all, heaven specialized in hunting down people who possessed the monarch purple qi. Xianyuan Zhou lightly nodded and turned to fly towards the horizon. He believed that Zhou Xuanji would follow him. "Xuanji," Jiang Shui got up from the ground and looked at Zhou Xuanji worriedly. He turned and smiled at her as he said, "You all stay here. Trust me, I will be back. Don't come looking for me." After saying this, he turned into a ray of sword light and chased after Xianyuan Zhou. In the clear sky, Zhou Xuanji and Xianyuan Zhou levitated in the air, facing each other. They were less than 100 meters apart. Their gazes met. Both of their gazes were cold and showed no fear. "I'm very curious about Tian's background," Zhou Xuanji said. Zhou Xuanji said. For years had passed, and although his cultivation level did not increase, his power had been growing. Facing the mysterious and unpredictable Xianyuan Zhou, he did not feel any fear and instead felt quite eager. Xianyuan Zhou was not in a rush to make a move. He replied, "Heaven is naturally the law enforcer of the will of the heavens. Whenever there are too many possessors of monarch qi in the world, heaven will appear and kill the possessors, returning peace to the world." Those with emperor qi were all people destined to become emperors. They were filled with ambition and would bring war to the world. When many people with emperor qi appeared, there would often be a massive calamity. Zhou Xuanji narrowed his eyes and asked, "Could it be that you were born from Tian?" Xianyuan Zhou did not reply. He slightly raised his chin and looked at Zhou Xuanji as he said, "Zhou Xuanji, you are different from those with emperor qi in the past. Your fate is mysterious and unpredictable, so I don't want to kill you for now. If you follow me, I can spare your life." Zhou Xuanji laughed. He wanted to subdue him. It seemed that Tian was not completely just and merciless. "It's not what you think. I just want to observe you for a while and use your power to kill those with emperor qi, as well as those who should not exist in this world." Xianyuan Zhou continued to speak. His gaze was just as cold as before, and there were no ripples in it at all. He waved his right hand downwards. In that instant, the ground below was torn apart, forming a massive canyon that stretched to the ends of the world. Rumble, dust flew everywhere, and it was as if the apocalypse had arrived. Looking from above, it looked like a semicircle had been split in two. The end of the canyon could not be seen, and it was at least 10,000 kilometers long. Zhou Xuanji frowned, feeling greatly shocked. This power, he could not even see the trajectory of Xianyuan Zhou's spirit energy clearly. He sank into his thoughts, should he act or not? You are at great realization level 1, and you have cultivated the world Buddha art to level 2. Your strength is enough to defeat first tribulation scattered immortals, and you might be able to fight against second tribulation scattered immortals. However, I have the strength of a third tribulation scattered immortal, so you have no chance of winning. Follow me, and perhaps I can help you become stronger, Xianyuan Zhou said calmly, drawing a large picture for him. Zhou Xuanji thought and asked in confusion, if you just want to observe me, why do you want to help me become stronger? Why did he feel that this Tian was different from the legends? In the legends, when Tian met someone with Emperor Qi, he would immediately fight without saying anything. Why would he be so courteous? I want to see if you have the qualifications to become Tian. Xianyuan Zhou's words were incredibly shocking, and hearing this, Zhou Xuanji's pupils constricted. Become Tian? Under the blue sky and white clouds, there was a boundless grassy plain. A group of gorgeously dressed women were walking forward. There was a man among them, hugging women on both sides, and his face was covered with red lipstick marks. This person was Bai Haoisin, who had appeared at Great Zhou's royal city. When this emperor finds his natal artifact, it will be the day this emperor regains control of the world. When that time comes, all of you girls will become concubines. What do you say? Bai Haoisin loudly laughed, looking incredibly carefree and relaxed. A beautiful woman next to him waved her fan and harumphed, who will be the empress? 1, 2. Chapter 297. You want to be the empress? That depends on talent. Little girls like you, your cultivation talent is too poor. You can only serve this emperor. Bai Haoisin shook his head and laughed mercilessly, causing the surrounding women to boo him in unison. Upon closer inspection, there were a total of 73 women, all of them beautiful and had impressive figures. They were all convinced by his strength and followed him to roam the world. Being this emperor's concubine will still allow you to stand at the peak of the world. Women must be content, understand? Bai Haoisin lifted the chin of the woman next to him and teased. He sighed in his heart. The human world was indeed beautiful. In the distance, on a white cloud, Zhou Xuanji and Xianyuan Zhou looked at Bai Haoisin. This person is the reincarnation of an ancient emperor? Is that for real? Zhou Xuanji looked quite confused. Seeing Bai Haoisin with so many beautiful women, he could not associate him with the incredibly domineering great emperor. Xianyuan Zhou said expressionlessly, since ancient times, all those who became great emperors would be roped in by various immortal sects in the higher realms after ascending, continuing to command the world. However, it's difficult for great emperors to be invincible in the higher realms, so this heartless emperor couldn't help but reincarnate and stay in the mortal world to enjoy himself. Great Emperor Heartless? Zhou Xuanji's mouth twitched as he heard this. Does this guy look like he's heartless? We must kill this kind of person who doesn't abide by the rules of heaven. Go and deal with him. If you succeed, I will allow you to return to visit your subordinates after a certain period of time. Xianyuan Zhou ordered, but Zhou Xuanji frowned and did not move. He had no enmity with Bai Haoisin, so how could he kill him for no reason? If you aren't willing, when he recovers his peak cultivation and controls the world, he will use all the women in the world as his cauldrons. At that time, it will be difficult to protect the women you care about. Xianyuan Zhou continued to speak. Hearing this, Yi Futian's eyes turned cold. Was this guy a stallion? Isn't this the desire of some otaku? He immediately took out the sky-extinguishing sword and the ancient god's sword. Stepping on the thunderclap sword, he charged forward. The Thunder Divine Sword had reached the peak of the glorious gold level after absorbing the heavenly lightning of the Qilance Divine Catastrophe. However, it had not broken through to the heavenly soul level, which was a pity. But it was still enough. Whoosh, the sound of air being torn could be heard, causing Bai Hao Isin to look back in shock. His gaze met Zhou Xuanji's cold and sharp gaze. "Who are you?" Bai Hao Isin asked in a low voice. He raised his right hand and a white barrier of light appeared, protecting all of his beloved servants. Two black figures appeared behind Zhou Xuanji. They were the souls of powerful beings. They were Saber Monarch Donghai and Demon Lord Ryuan. The ancient god's sword awakened a soul every 3 years. Demon Lord Ryuan was the third soul. With the power of two powerful beings and the power of the sky-extinguishing sword, Zhou Xuanji's aura was incredibly domineering as he slashed downwards. Ping! The white light barrier shattered like glass, turning into countless specks of light and dissipating. "Ah!" 73 women screamed in unison. The piercing power of their screams was so strong that it seemed to be able to ascend to the 36 heavens and descend to the netherworld. Impudent! Bai Hao Isin leapt up and slammed his palm towards Zhou Xuanji. A green shield appeared in his palm, blocking the ancient god's sword. The spiritual power of the two exploded, directly sending each other flying. The legendary swords overlapped and appeared behind Zhou Xuanji, blocking his way. Bai Hao Isin somersaulted a few times in the air before landing stably. Their gazes passed through the dozens of women and stared at each other. "So many swords. Are you the current Sword Emperor Zhou Xuanji?" Bai Hao Isin asked in a low voice. His expression was a little unsightly. If it were anyone else, they would have been furious. He was enjoying himself with his women, and now someone jumped out to attack him. How could he tolerate this? However, when his women heard that it was Zhou Xuanji, they immediately exploded. "Sword Emperor Zhou Xuanji? Is it really him? He's so handsome. The rumors are true. He really has many legendary swords. He's so young. I heard that he's only 35 or 36 years old. That's right. That sword strike was so powerful." Hearing this, Bai Hao Isin's face darkened, and veins bulged in his forehead. These damned women. Didn't the path of ultimate bliss make them calm down? Zhou Xuanji straightened his body and looked at Bai Hao Isin as he said, "Great Emperor Heartless, the mortal realm does not want you. Your era has passed. Do you still want to enslave mortal women as cultivation furnaces?" These words made Bai Hao Isin frown. "How do you know my identity? But I'm not enslaving them. I'm using my charm to conquer them. I'm going to conquer all the beautiful women in the world," he said in a low voice. Toward the end, he looked like a pig, which made Zhou Xuanji feel nauseous. "The heavens cannot tolerate you, don't blame me." Zhou Xuanji charged toward him. He wanted to see what the great ancient emperor was capable of. As for whether to kill him or not, he had not decided yet. He did not trust Xianyuan Zhou completely. If not for the fact that he wanted to use him to become stronger, he would have attacked him long ago. Good. I want to see if the current Sword Emperor is worthy of the title of Sword Emperor. Bai Hao Isin leaped up and soared into the sky. The 1,000 swords merged into one, forming a horrifying legendary sword that was thousands of meters long and slashed out furiously. Xianyuan Zhou could not dodge in time and was slashed by the sword. Boom! A world-shaking explosion sounded out. A powerful radiance burst out, and Zhou Xuanji felt as if the world had lost its color. This slash contained his full power and was extremely domineering. Even if he was facing Jihuang Demon Lord, he was confident that he could kill him instantly with one slash. On the ground below, countless humans and demons were in an uproar. From their point of view, the second sun seemed to have exploded. At skyfall, Jiang Shui, Daoya Old Man, Xiao Jinghong, and the others were worried about Zhou Xuanji. Look! Meng Tianlang suddenly pointed in a direction and cried out, which attracted everyone's attention. There was a ball of golden radiance in the sky. It was extremely far away and looked like the sun at first glance. What's that? Daoya Old Man divined instinctively, but he vomited a mouthful of blood and fainted on the spot. On the other side, in the forest, Xian Xianghua walked slowly. Suddenly, she leaped up into the air and looked up. She squinted her eyes and mumbled, "Who's fighting that? This aura?" She was shocked in her heart. Could it be Yang Di? Then who was the other person? When did such a powerful being appear in the northern wilderness region? Could it be the revival of an ancient powerhouse? The Emperor's Wei thousand-hand sword Buddha stopped. Zhou Xuanji was within its body and panted continuously. That slash just now had exhausted him. If not for the Tianxia map replenishing his spirit energy, he might have fallen straight down and shattered into pieces. His eyes were fixed on the front. The clouds and smoke dissipated, and Xianyuan Zhou's silhouette appeared slowly. Lightning flashed around him vaguely. Xianyuan Zhou was covered in blood, and his white ribs were exposed. He looked miserable and horrifying, like a malicious ghost that crawled out from hell. His breathing was weak, and he was also panting continuously. Zhou Xuanji, you are powerful indeed. You already have the power to fight against a third tribulation-scattered immortal. He spoke in a stutter, as though he was at the end of his rope. But, heaven, please bestow me faith and fear no evil demons. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 304. Tiger Emperor Fu Di, right? Hurry up and come out. Zhou Xuanji ignored Zhuang Huixing's gaze and shouted. His voice resounded through the clouds and shook the forest, scaring the other demons that rushed over to stop. Looking at the dozens of divine swords wreaking havoc in the air, they were scared out of their wits. So many swords, could he be the Sword Emperor Zhou Xuanji? What? Impossible. Why is Zhou Xuanji here? It's over. The Sword Emperor is here. Quickly run. Even Ji Zun died in his hands, we can't resist. So many swords. Apart from the Sword Emperor, who else has such capability? The demons cried out in shock. All of them were terrified and continuously retreated, not daring to get close to Zhou Xuanji. Within the demon race, Zhou Xuanji's intimidation was definitely the greatest, and he could not even compare to Yang Di. The top 10 monsters of the northern wilderness top 100 were all killed by him. It could even be said that Zhou Xuanji had single-handedly destroyed the demon race's top-tier battle power. Zhuang Huixing broke out in a cold sweat. Was this the tyranny of a sword emperor? The moment he opened his mouth, it was enough to make him tremble in fear. Roar! A tiger's roar exploded, shaking the clouds. Immediately after, a gust of demonic wind flew out from the mountain stream on the mountain peak. When the demonic wind dissipated, a man with a tiger head and a human body could be seen. His body was tall and sturdy, and his tiger fur was black, so his tiger head looked extremely baleful. It was the Fu Di Tiger Emperor. He looked at Zhou Xuanji furiously but did not dare to say anything. He gritted his teeth and asked, Zhou Xuanji, what do you want? I didn't offend you. Zhou Xuanji looked at Tiger Monarch Fu Di indifferently and said, that mountain village saved my life. You captured so many young boys and girls, it's time for you to pay with your life. After saying that, all the divine swords shot towards the foodie tiger monarch. Shio! Shio! Swoosh! Each of the divine swords had a dragon-shaped sword chi entwined around them, giving off a majestic aura. The foodie tiger monarch was so startled that he took out his twin axes and hurriedly dodged. Zhou Xuanji's hands hung by their sides, his right hand still gripping the Holy Light Redemption sword as he coldly watched the battle. Now, ninth stage great demons were nothing in his eyes. Even though he was heavily injured and had yet to fully recover, he was still confident that he could kill him. Seeing that Zhou Xuanji was able to make Tiger Monarch Foodie so helpless without even helping, all the demons were in an uproar. Too powerful, Zhuang Huixing swallowed his saliva and began to plan. How could he bury the hatchet with Zhou Xuanji? He thought of the mountain village and suddenly had an idea. In the distance, a green-robed man stood in the forest, followed by dozens of great demons. He was Zhuang Huixing's father, Demon Monarch Gulan. In his human form, he had a scholarly temperament. It was difficult for mortals to tell that he was a demon. He stared at Zhou Xuanji, and cold sweat flowed down his forehead. So powerful, he was quite confused. Zhou Xuanji had cultivated for less than 40 years, so how could he be so powerful? Tianxia map? Talent? Even so, this was too much of a blow. His thoughts were the same as Zhuang Huixing's. They began to plot to eliminate the hatred between him and Zhou Xuanji. At that moment, the ancient god's sword released the souls of two powerful beings. Saber Monarch Dong Hai. Demon Lord Ryuan. The two great cultivators simultaneously struck out with their palms, striking Tiger Monarch Foodie's chest. Puff! The foodie tiger emperor spat out a mouthful of blood and fell into the forest. The cold abyss spirit gatherer sword rotated at high speed and descended from the sky, smashing into the ground. In an instant, a wave of cold air exploded, freezing the forest within 1,000 meters into a world of ice and snow. The powerful tiger monarch Fu Di was already frozen into an ice sculpture and could not move. He struggled with all his might to break out of the ice. At this moment, the colorful heart-piercing sword pierced through his chest. Ah! Tiger Monarch Fu Di cried out miserably, which made all the demons shudder in fear. Zhou Xuanji flew up to him and pressed his right hand on the layer of ice to absorb his demonic energy. Soon, Tiger Monarch Fu Di stopped screaming. Trapped in the ice, he stared at Zhou Xuanji with hatred. He wanted to tear Zhou Xuanji into pieces. Zhou Xuanji watched him die expressionlessly. After Tiger Monarch Fu Di's demonic energy was sucked dry, the surrounding ice dissipated. The forest became wet as though it had just experienced a heavy downpour. Zhou Xuanji stored his sword and walked into the mountain where Tiger Monarch Fu Di lived. He wanted to see what kind of treasure it was. Zhuang Huixing gritted his teeth and did not follow. Instead, he waited on the spot. Soon, his father, Demon Monarch Gulan, flew over. What happened? Demon Monarch Gulan said with a deep voice. Why did Zhuang Huixing bring such a murderous god here? Zhuang Huixing smiled bitterly and told him what happened. He was puzzled as well. Why did Zhou Xuanji appear in this area? At the same time, Zhou Xuanji flew into the mountain stream and quickly entered a cave. He scanned the entire mountain with his mind and found many young boys and girls. There were also countless human corpses. It was like hell on earth. Because of his arrival, the demons in the mountain had already escaped, so he was not in a hurry to save the children. Soon, he came to a cave that was glowing with a faint purple light. There was a flower that was as tall as a human near the cave wall. It was budding and swayed with the wind that passed through the cave. The flower was bright red and extremely beautiful. A faintly discernible aroma wafted in the cave. Zhou Xuanji immediately held his breath and stopped smelling the aroma. Looking down from the red flower, he could see many white bones. Judging from the size of the bones, they belonged to children. He walked up to the red flower and took out the wind cutter sword, preparing to cut it down. At this moment, the red flower blossomed suddenly. Its petals turned into a bloody mouth and bit toward him. Zhou Xuanji activated Sword Qi Soar straight away. Sword Qi emanated from his body and shredded the flower. He frowned slightly. Could this flower be the extraordinary treasure? He focused his eyes and noticed a fingernail-sized red pearl hovering near the red flower. It was as red as blood. Mortal, I advise you to leave this place and not disturb me. Or else, no matter how many tribulations scattered immortals you are, I will extract your soul and refine it so that you will never be able to reincarnate. An eerie female voice came. The voice was a little hoarse, as though an old woman was speaking. Zhou Xuanji asked with squinted eyes, "Tell me your name." "You are so arrogant. Are you more powerful than heaven?" She did not even take great tribulation scattered immortals seriously. Could it be that some ancient powerhouse was hiding here? Heaven? Humph, you are quite knowledgeable. If I was at my peak, even heaven would avoid me. This sovereign's name, if I say it out loud, you will be scared to death. My name is Old Mother Wan Yi. The eerie female voice came from the blood pearl again, which stunned Zhou Xuanji. Old Mother, he was dumbfounded. He had never heard of her before. He could not be bothered to deal with it. He directly activated world reincarnation, and a purple Taiji diagram appeared on his forehead. He reached out with his left hand and grabbed the blood bead. As expected, waves of spiritual power surged out from the blood bead and were repelled by world reincarnation. World reincarnation. How is this possible? Old Mother Wan Yi cried out in terror as if she had met her mortal enemy. At this moment, a black silhouette emerged from the ground nearby. He was shrouded in darkness and could not be identified. He looked at Zhou Xuanji furiously and roared, "Let go of my mother." Hearing this, Zhou Xuanji threw the blood bead over and cursed, "I'll throw your mother away, colon." Chapter 305. Zhou Xuanji's strength was so great that he tossed the blood bead with all his might. The blood bead turned into the sharpest arrow in the world and pierced through the black shadow. The arrow smashed into the cave wall and shook the entire cave. Then, he used the universal attraction to suck the blood bead back and held it in his hand. All of this happened in less than a breath's time. Neither Old Mother Wan Yi nor the black shadow could react in time. Zhou Xuanji raised his right hand and sucked the black shadow over. No matter how the black shadow struggled, it couldn't break free. With world reincarnation, Zhou Xuanji was not afraid of sneak attacks at all. "Tell me, who are you?" Zhou Xuanji asked coldly. This guy looked like a shadow, but he had a corporeal feeling, which was very strange. "I'm Old Mother's Ghost General Zhan Yang. I advise you not to act recklessly. Old Mother carries the destiny of the human race. If her soul is destroyed, the human race will collapse, and even be wiped out," the black shadow said through gritted teeth. His tone was filled with fear. Zhou Xuanji laughed coldly, "Trying to scare me? How could an evil spirit like her, who only ate children, inherit the destiny of the human race? Did your mother only teach you to lie through your teeth?" Ghost General Zhanyang was anxious when he heard that. He could sense Zhou Xuanji's murderous intent. Old Mother was the princess of the human race's first great fate empire, the daughter of Emperor Xia. She fell into the ghost path for the sake of the human race's providence. Without her, the human race would have long ceased to exist. So what if she ate some children? Come to think of it, I am your ancestor. Ghost General Zhanyang said furiously, which made Zhou Xuanji's eyes turn cold. Why does that sound like a curse? But was that really Old Mother Wan Yi's identity? He remembered that the first great fate dynasty of the human race was called the Great Xia. This was quite similar to the history of Huaxia. However, the historical background was completely different. The Xia kingdom was born in the era when the demon clan ruled the world. Emperor Xia was the first Renhuang, and it was said that he was also the strongest Renhuang. It was he who led the human clan to dominate the world, establishing the human clan as the overlord of the world. Long ago, the Xia emperor had ascended. If he was still alive, how terrifying would his cultivation be? Even the hegemon Sword Emperor could use his will to observe the northern wilderness region, let alone Emperor Xia. If he killed old Mother Wan Yi, wouldn't it be troublesome for him to ascend in the future? Moreover, if what Ghost General Zhanyang said was true, killing old Mother Wan Yi would destroy the human race's fate. In the future, Zhou Xuanji might even overthrow the human race. Wait a minute. Why was he thinking so far ahead? Zhou Xuanji's gaze once again became resolute. Chapter 306. Zhou Xuanji brought the children back to the village. Among the children, 2 came from this village. When their parents saw them, they cried tears of joy. Zhou Xuanji gathered the other villagers and told them about his arrangement. When they heard that Zhuang Huixing wanted to protect them, they were all excited and hoped that Zhou Xuanji could kill him. But when they heard about Fudi Tiger Monarch, they fell silent. Let's listen to Immortal Teacher Sword Emperor's arrangement. After killing that demon, there will be other demons. It's better to let them protect us. Moreover, the one who ate our children was not him but that damned Fudi Tiger Monarch. The old village chief said with a trembling voice as he leaned on his walking stick. Zhou Xuanji nodded and said, I will teach you a sword technique. How much you can learn will depend on your luck. If you have the power to protect yourselves and want to learn sword techniques, you can come to Skyfall. Remember, to come to Skyfall, you must be at least astral infant, or else you will die on the way. The villagers heard him and became excited. There were blacksmiths in the village who made many iron swords. Although they were ordinary weapons, they were enough for them to practice with. In the next 5 days, Zhou Xuanji taught the vibrant raindrop sword to the villagers as he recuperated from his injuries. The white crane sword technique was too low-leveled. It was not effective in this area. He only asked for 1 person to learn it. The children he saved stayed in the village. He did not have the energy to help them find their way home. This day, he was prepared to leave. But he was stopped by a dark-skinned young man. The young man knelt before him again and said with gritted teeth, I want to cultivate. I hope that you can take me as your disciple. If I can't, I can even be your servant, as long as you take me with you. Zhou Xuanji glanced at him. He had an impression of him. This young man was the most hardworking in sword techniques among the villagers. It was a pity that he was not talented in the way of the sword. He smiled and tossed out a blue-covered book. Young man, do you know my criteria for taking in disciples? Only 1 in a million can enter my eyes. Seeing that you are determined to seek immortality, I will give you this internalization of qi. I hope that we will meet again in the future. After that, he turned into a stream of sword light and flew toward the horizon. The dark-skinned young man held the energy technique in his hand and looked determined. Immortal Teacher Sword Emperor, one day, I, Su Han, will stand before you and gain your approval. I want to become a powerful sword cultivator like you. Skyfall was to the south of the northern wilderness region, and Zhou Xuanji took half a month to return to Skyfall. He activated the art of concealing qi and turned into a silver sword. He shuttled through the forest and hid himself. Halfway up the mountain, the second-generation disciples were still practicing their swordsmanship. They were very hard-working, and he was very satisfied. The 4 mountain-guarding kings were dozing off as usual. At the top of the mountain, Daoya Old Man was teaching Jiang Shui the art of divination, but the girl was lost in thought and did not listen. Sai, you can't go on like this. You have to focus. Daoya Old Man sighed helplessly. He wanted to blame her, but he couldn't bring himself to say it. After all, there was a reason for this. Jiang Shui frowned and did not speak. Master is back. Zhou Xiaoqi suddenly shouted. His voice was very excited, and it attracted the attention of all the people nearby. Zhou Xuanji was shocked in his heart. How did this guy know he was coming? Zhao Zongjian appeared in front of Zhou Xiaoqi out of nowhere and asked in a deep voice, Where is Master? Jiang Shui looked around in surprise, but she did not see Zhou Xuanji. At this moment, he was hiding behind a rock and did not immediately jump out. He's not here? Meng Tianlang opened his eyes wide. He instinctively scanned with his divine sense, but he still could not sense Zhou Xuanji's presence. Zhou Xiaoqi mumbled, I clearly felt him. The smile on Jiang Shue's face froze, and tears welled up in her eyes. Seeing that she was about to cry, Zhou Xuanji sighed in his heart and flew out. Swoosh! The silver sword soared into the sky and drew a perfect arc in the air. Zhou Xuanji transformed into his human form and landed in front of Jiang Shui. He opened up his arms and said with a smile, I'm back. Jiang Shui was stunned, and so were the others. Next, she leaped into his arms and started sobbing. The others cheered. Ever since Zhou Xuanji left, the entire skyfall was filled with a deathly aura. Everyone was worried about his safety. If something happened to him, the group would most likely fall apart. After Zhou Xuanji comforted Jiang Shui, he told them about what had happened during this period of time. After knowing that Great Emperor Heartless had appeared, Daoya Old Man was greatly shocked. Only he had heard of the legends of Great Emperor Heartless. Legends say that 90,000 years ago, Great Emperor Heartless dominated the world and had 3 great emperors under him. However, he did not have any desire for power and always traveled the world freely. It said that in the past 100,000 years, Great Emperor Heartless' power could be ranked in the top 10. Daoya Old Man sighed in amazement. He had never thought that such a person would descend into the human realm. 3 great emperors under him? Zhou Xuanji blinked. It seemed that he had offended an incredible person. After that, he continued to speak. When he heard that Emperor Xia's daughter was still alive, Daoya Old Man was shocked again. Old Mother Wan Yi? That's an ancient evil demon. She's indeed Emperor Xia's daughter. With your current strength, you will definitely lose against Shishenzong. Cultivate well and try not to go to the human race. Qiu Dao reminded him. After saying that, his phantom image dissipated in the air. Zhou Xuanji looked at Daoya Old Man with squinted eyes and asked, Why do I feel like he's trying to provoke me? Daoya Old Man nodded with a smile. Zhou Xuanji looked forward to Shishenzong's revival. This was because there were no outstanding sword cultivators in this era. Even though Zhou Xuanji was the Sword Emperor, his position in history was not very high. If he could defeat the Sword Saint, his name would definitely go down in history. Thinking of this, he turned around and continued to cultivate. His current cultivation base was only at Mahayana level 1. He was still far from becoming a great tribulation scattered immortal. Daoya Old Man stood at the edge of the cliff, deep in thought. Half a month later, Lin Changa led Su Yang and 10 second-generation disciples down the mountain to gain experience. 2 years later, they finally returned. And this time, they also brought back hundreds of third-generation disciples. There were men and women, and every one of them had a murderous aura. After all, they had killed their way back. In these 2 years, Zhou Xuanji did not leave Skyfall and cultivated in peace. His cultivation base had also reached Mahayana level 2. He obtained 3 legendary swords, but they were all gold-grade legendary swords, which disappointed him. They were the bamboo suspension sword, the dragon python sword, and the cursed fire sword. Other than that, he did not even obtain a single sword technique. His luck was extremely bad. Fortunately, the ancient god's sword awakened another soul, which was called Emperor Tsanghai. His strength had also increased by a large margin. This day, Zhou Xuanji gathered all the disciples and gave a motivational speech. All the disciples looked at him fervently. The person in front of them was the world's second, the most powerful sword cultivator, and also the most powerful genius in history. So far, we have 80 second-generation disciples and 334 third-generation disciples. We are very close to establishing our sect. You will all be founding elders, the future pillars of Emperor Sword Court. Zhou Xuanji said with a smile. His first sentence attracted everyone's attention. Emperor Sword Court. Such a domineering name. He chose this name because Zhou Xuanji was called the Sword Emperor and because he wanted to imitate Chinese legends. Legend had it that the ancient Heavenly Emperor created the Heavenly Court on Buzhou Divine Mountain. And now, he created Emperor Sword Court on Skyfall. Wasn't there a deeper meaning behind this? He wanted Emperor Sword Court to reign supreme over the world and become the most powerful sanctum. Its fate would last forever. Emperor Sword Court, what a good name. From today onwards, we are members of Emperor Sword Court. I'm looking forward to the day we establish our sect. I like it. When can we establish our sect? The disciples discussed excitedly. Even Jiang Shui, Huang Lianxin, Chongming Demon Monarch, Lin Chang'e, and the others were discussing it. Zhou Xuanji continued to speak. There's still some time before we establish our sect. In the future, Emperor Sword Court will establish Xuanji Sword Library, 10,000 Swords Behemoth, Skyfall Inner Court, and other subordinate factions to guard energy techniques, swords, and natural treasures. Nothing can be accomplished without rules. Different statuses will enjoy different treatment. Cultivate well. Your performance will be watched by Jinghong and the others. They will assign you positions in the future. 1,000 years later, Emperor Sword Court will be like Canghai Ziggurat and Dongyuan Monastery, above the empires. At that time, I will be the top cultivator in the world, and you will be the disciples of the number one sanctum. His tone was impassioned, stirring up everyone's emotions and making their blood boil. Even Xiao Jinghong and the others were looking forward to it. Meng Tianlang held the sword in his hand and thought to himself, I must become the sharpest sword in Emperor Sword Court. Zhou Xuanji treated him well and taught him many profound sword techniques. His treatment was not inferior to that of his personal disciples, which made him feel grateful. He had long become a part of Skyfall. After that, Zhou Xuanji asked the second-generation disciples to teach the third-generation disciples sword formations so that they could get closer to each other. Seeing that they began to train, Zhou Xuanji left with his trusted subordinates. Lin Chang'e reported to him at the top of the mountain. The Sword Saint has appeared and stirred up the world. Countless people flocked to 10,000 Swords Divine Mountain to cultivate under the Sword Saint, Lin Chang'e said with a deep voice. If he had not become Zhou Xuanji's disciple, he might have gone to 10,000 Swords Divine Mountain as well. But now, he only felt that things were troublesome, and he viewed Shi Shenzong as an enemy. Zhou Xuanji smiled calmly and said, It's okay. Let him continue to develop. The more powerful 10,000 Swords Divine Mountain, the more Emperor Sword Court will gain from defeating them in the future. The little black snake spat its forked tongue and asked curiously, Shi Shenzong did not cause trouble for Yang Di? He was looking forward to Shi Shenzong beating up Yang Di. Lin Chang'e shook his head and said, Ever since he was revived, he has not left 10,000 Swords Divine Mountain. He might be recovering his power. After all, he has just been revived. Calm. Wonderful book house.